no new wars. And of course, the argument and the spin that we're getting from our friends on the right now is that this isn't a war, or they're saying, "Oh, you guys just defend Maduro." No one here. Let me just let me say this. Two things can be true, and I understand when it comes to foreign policy or anything, our friends on the right don't understand nuance and don't understand that two things can be true. Nicolas Maduro, a horrible, disgusting, despicable, vile dictator. No doubt about it. And the United States should not be the police force of the world. We should not be part of regime change, admittedly so. And that's what they have told us when members of our cabinet will be running the country. You can't get more regime changey than that. So those things can be true. No one gives a shit about this guy. We care about due process. What we care about is the United States is now saying we can just go to countries under the premise of whatever the fuck we want and say, we're just going to arrest foreign leaders. So what does that tell our authoritarian, those that we oppose, the authoritarian states of the world? Can they just do the same? So if China has an issue, or if Hungary has an issue with President Macron, they can just send flights overnight into France, go to the presidential palace in Paris and just kidnap the president, round up Keir Starmer. Maybe countries, maybe Russia backed, maybe Iran decides that they don't really like Canadian back bacon. So they send in some operatives. Fix my mic. I don't think there's anything wrong with my mic. It sounds okay to me. Somebody having an issue are we having an issue with sound? Hang on. I think we're good. Sounds okay to me. Okay. So is that the new mantra? That we become the world police again? Isn't that the whole point, that we try to avoid this? Wasn't that the entire push behind the entire America First movement? That's what I'm going to talk about a lot today. I'm going to talk about the hypocrisy. I'm going to talk about things that the president himself has said. People in his cabinet have said. One of the reasons he got elected. We can talk about those three basic things that he ran on, right? They were effective. I'm going to lower your prices. Going to round up brown-skinned people through immigration and no new wars. That's what he ran on. So he hasn't lowered your prices. It's authoritarian what he's doing. They're not just arresting the bad people. They're rounding up American citizens and throwing them in jail. And now we're just invading other countries. And what you're going to hear from the right is this constant pushing, it's not an invasion, it's not a war. But we have not been at war, technically. Although you can talk to anybody who's served. Okay. Guys, I need your help. Of course, we're getting mass reported once again. So if you guys can do me a solid, everybody tap like crazy. Everybody tap like crazy. Everybody gift like crazy, please. You want to engage with the live. It's the best way to do it. Comment, share it, please. I appreciate you all very, very much. Anyway, the argument is going to be all this semantic bullshit. Well, it's technically not war. So you want to walk up to somebody who served in Iraq or Afghanistan or Somalia and tell them that wasn't a war? Why would the Department of Defense change their title from Department of Defense to the Department of War? Why does Pete Hegseth constantly talk about war fighters, the warrior ethos? You can use your little games all you want to. You can use your little semantic arguments all you want to. But it is the absolute blatant fucking hypocrisy. So when people say, the left cares about dictators. No, the simple answer is no, we don't. You guys told us for years that you don't want us involved in other countries' business anymore, but have you changed your mind? And here's the funny thing about it. Here's the to me the most ridiculous part about the entire thing is that you hear people on the right now defending the freedom of Venezuelan citizens. Like you suddenly care about brown-skinned people? Like you suddenly care about Venezuelans? Really? You see what I mean? You see how your argument falls just flat on its face? We're going to also talk a little bit today about, the American experiment when it comes to regime change and how it's never worked. Maybe Panama, that may be the only example that we might be able to cite in the last 100 years, 75 years, 50 years. That might be the only one that we could even say marginally worked. So here's where we sit. right? We've got more lies. This one to me is a bit different because I have a feeling it has the potential to kind of really upset the world order. And maybe that's what people want ultimately. Because we're going to talk a little bit today about how Wall Street's already prepping. Wall Street's already planning on sending people down there to understand where the investments lie. We know that American oil companies' stocks have already gone up. At the opening bell today, stocks will be higher. So sure, we can sit back and say it's never been about schmugs. It's never been about that. Of course not. That's just been one fucking lie after another. One lie after another. It's never been about that. And it's not just about oil, in my opinion. It's not just about that, although that's a big one. It's bigger than that. It's about people enriching themselves, and oil becomes the mechanism for it. It's not just oil. It's about reinvestment. That's why Wall Street's sending venture capital firms down there. That's why you're going to see these spikes. And again, who benefits when these massive spikes in capital happens? The people at the fucking top. The people at the fucking top. Yeah, and of course we know that I saw Mr. Global talking about that. We know that it's like the heavy crude. I'm not an oil expert, but it's like the heavy crude is what they have in Venezuela. And we know that Venezuela are sitting on top of I think it's like 17% of the world's oil supply, but it's expensive to refine. It's really expensive to refine. It's never been about schmugs. It's never been about that. It's never been. The reason we know it's never been about that is because of the fact that the president has pardoned a schmug dealer. We know it's not about schmugs. It's about bloodthirsty approach to apparently policing the entire Western Hemisphere now. And I just exactly follow the money. Thank you for saying that. Again, just as a reminder, I want to go back to the double tap strike. Okay. The Republicans who support this, the administration, Pete Hegseth, and others, want people to believe is that a boat that was struck by 2 missiles the first time, that was on fire, that was capsized, according to the testimony from not only the Republicans who shared this, Tom Cotton famously, but the admiral who discussed it, that the boat was hit, the hull was split in half, the boat had capsized, it was on fire. In the Caribbean Ocean, 65, 70 feet of water, 2 survivors clinging to the capsized hull while it was on fire. The water was over their head, which means there's no way they could flip it over. Boat was thousands of miles from U.S. shores. There were no American ships in the area, and they want you to believe that that was a threat. And they want you to believe that this entire thing was about the war on schmugs. If you're going to believe that, then I've got some land I'd like to sell you that sits next to a nuclear waste dump. We'll call it warm weather viewing. So when you break it down like that, do you care that you've been lied to as much as you have? They were a danger to the U.S. Of course. Of course they were. Of course they were. Now, again, because we're smarter over here on the left, and y'all are the smartest chat on TikTok, we know that a lot of this is about the cover-up of the e-files. Have you noticed that no one's talking about Minnesota fraud anymore? Do you want to know why no one's talking about that anymore? Because it's complete fucking bullshit. As we've discussed many, many, many times. Hang on one second. Goodbye again. Bye-bye. I love you. Love you. Be safe, be kind, be gentle. Okay. That's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe that this was about protecting American lives. No. No, that doesn't prove my point. My point is it's just a stupid fucking story in Minnesota. That's the whole fucking point. That's why nobody's talking about it. Yeah. So I'm going to read you something. I found this great creator that I like that I follow on Substack. Her name is Judith Dayal. And I just like the way that she framed it. I think she's a good writer. So I'm just going to read it to you because it has a lot. It basically expresses what I feel currently. The title of her piece is "I'm fucking embarrassed to be an American right now, truly." Because what we're watching right now isn't simply a foreign operation in Venezuela, it is a political spectacle. To make it worse, a significant portion of the MAGA movement is cheering it on like a patriotic halftime show, never once stopping to question legality, motive, or what this really represents. And yes, Nicolas Maduro is a dictator. Yes, Venezuelans have suffered terribly. Those facts do still matter. But let's be honest. Trump does not care about Venezuelans. He does not care about peace. He does not care about democracy abroad. The situation is convenient for him, and he is using it. A dictator in Venezuela gives him the perfect script to repackage militarism as patriotism. It allows people who are beginning to doubt him to feel proud again, to wrap themselves in the flag, to reconnect with the fantasy that America is always the hero, and that loyalty to him is part of that heroic identity. It soothes their conscience, their fifis. It keeps them comfortable. It lets them say, see, we're the good guys. Meanwhile, the same administration cheering military action would deport Venezuelan refugees without hesitation, and they have on numerous examples. People fleeing the very suffering they claim to care about are treated like criminals the instant they reach our border. So no, this is not about compassion. This is about oil. It's about geopolitical leverage. It's about image crafting. It's about the psychological power of patriotic theater. It is a distraction. And the fact that people swallow it so eagerly, rushing into comment sections to repeat talking points about freedom and strength, etc., is deeply embarrassing because it shows just how easily nationalism can replace critical thinking. These are the same voices who insist they oppose endless wars, the same movement that chants America first, and yet applaud when vast U.S. resources are poured into foreign operations, while Americans at home struggle to pay rent, afford groceries, access health care, and survive. It turns out America first is less a principle and more a slogan of convenience. Supporting Venezuelans' desire for democracy is moral. Blindly celebrating U.S. militarism as a form of emotional reassurance is not. This moment reveals who actually cares about democracy and who simply wants to feel powerful. But because democracy is not defined by the size of our weapons, it is defined by legal limits of power, congressional oversight, transparency, and accountability. If you cheer executive militarism simply because it is being exercised by your political leader, that is not patriotism. That is submission to authority. Preach. What I'm seeing right now is not strength. It is conditioning. It is a movement that has been trained to treat military force as emotional comfort. It is propaganda whispering. Don't worry about poverty or inequality or crumbling infrastructure. Don't worry about the people struggling in your own community. Look over here instead. Feel proud again. Feel powerful again. And it works. That is why this moment feels humiliating. Not because Venezuelans do not deserve freedom, because they do, but because too many Americans are unable or unwilling to distinguish genuine moral concern from nationalist theater. Too many are happy to accept the narrative that keeps them comfortable, even when it contradicts every principle they claim to hold. They claim to oppose authoritarianism, except when they admire it. They claim to oppose endless wars, except when their leader orders them. They claim to oppose globalism, except when oil and power are at stake. And while all of this plays out, real human beings, Venezuelan and American alike, are treated as props. Patriotism isn't blind loyalty or loud slogans. Real patriotism requires honesty, especially when that honesty is uncomfortable. It means being willing to examine what your country is doing and tell the truth about it, even when that truth cuts against the story people want to believe. What so many are calling patriotism right now is really just obedience, dressed up in a flag, a refusal to question power as long as it feels good. But loving a country has never meant surrendering your ability to think. If anything, it means demanding better from it and being honest enough to say when it has gone wrong. A nation that cannot question its own power does not become safer or stronger, it becomes reckless. I will not join the applause. We owe the world, we owe ourselves much better than this. I don't think I could have really said it any better, because that's what this has come down to now. And she's absolutely right when she talks about this is because he's hemorrhaging support across the board, whether it be in polling, whether it be in members of Congress standing up against him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. he needs a distraction. And he can just go and he can just cater to especially to white men, to be able to get their little tickle in their pants, right? To get their little tickle, boom booms, war fighters, warrior ethos, fuck around and find out, that shit. Speaking of Wag the Dog, I'm going to get there in just a second because I remember that movie and I have a clip for you. So that's to me, that's what this is. And yes, it is about oil and access to minerals and access to reinvestment, right? The claim that they're trying to make the Western Hemisphere more secure is just bullshit. Venezuela is one of the countries in the world that has some of the mostly highly sought after raw materials. It's a wealthy nation based on what they have access to. Again, two things can be true. I cannot speak, nor would I ever try to speak on behalf of anybody who's been under the thumb of Nicolas Maduro. And I'm sure that many people are celebrating. And of course, that's some of the things that we've seen. People are celebrating, even though we know some of the videos that have been shared online come from a couple years ago. Exactly, Sam. Release the damn files. Exactly. So that's what this is about, right? This is about distraction. This is about cover up. This is focusing on. This to me is what the administration for years. The ability to say I control not only do I control the narrative, but I control the messaging to my flock. I control I can manipulate them. I can do whatever's necessary to get them off the thing that I don't want them to talk about, which is the Jeffrey files. All of it. That is all of it. So yes, it's about the cover up. Yes, it's about the corruption. Yes, it's about the hypocrisy, but it's also about the fucking money. It is also about the money. There's reporting from, let me see if I can find the story. Where is it? So this is from the Wall Street Journal. Some on Wall Street are already considering possible investment opportunities in Venezuela following the capture of Maduro, according to Charles Myers, chairman of the consulting firm Signum Global Advisors and a former head of investment advisory from Evercore. Myers said in an interview that he is planning a trip to Venezuela with officials from top hedge funds and asset managers to determine whether there are investment prospects in the country under new leadership. The trip will feature about 20 officials from the finance, energy, and defense sectors, among others, Myers said. The tentative plan is for the group to travel to Venezuela in March and meet with the new government, which is apparently going to be Marco Rubio, I guess, including the new president, finance minister, energy minister, economy minister, head of the central bank, and the Caracas Stock Exchange. Myers didn't provide a list of individuals who are planning to travel to the country. He estimates there will be between $500 billion and $1 trillion in investment opportunities in the country for foreign investors over the next 5 years. You want to tell us again that it's about drugs? You want to tell us again that it's about democracy? You see, this is the issue, and this is the hard part for us who want to try to paint these narratives and these pictures, right? Again, I'm not here to debate although I do believe it is illegal based on a few things, but we won't talk about that just yet. But for people on the right who for years, again, stood 10 toes down against interventionism and imperialism and regime change, here we are doing exactly what they have complained about for years, and rightly so. That's something that I would agree with, no doubt about it. But here we are. So capital hedge fund through Wall Street going to Venezuela now that the deck has been cleared, so to speak, lining up their pockets. Who do you think is going to benefit? Do you think we're going to benefit from that? Do you really think we're going to benefit from that? Don't forget, Venezuela is part of OPEC. Don't forget what access to this Venezuelan oil does to people who are investing, including our own president, including members of Congress who have massive amounts invested in big oil. 90% of big oil money in Congress flows through to Republicans. That's not a coincidence, folks. Not a coincidence. And here's the rub. So just back in November, I remember this. I had to look it up. Let me see if I can find it. Back in November, a resolution was introduced that would block Trump from carrying out military action in Venezuela without congressional approval. It failed to garner enough support. Every single Republican, with the exception of two, Lisa Murkowski and Rand Paul, and both Utah senators, didn't vote. Every Republican voted against it. Everyone. Every single Republican voted against congressional powers under the Constitution. Every single one of them. That's fine, though, right? Nothing to see here. So, again, miss me with this both sides bullshit. It's your fucking hypocrisy. So just to add some more color to that, let's see. Some of the members of Congress who've got the biggest holdings in Exxon Mobil and other big oil companies are Shelley Moore Caputo from West Virginia, Jerry Moran from Kansas, Pete Ricketts from Nebraska, Tommy Tuberville from Alabama, John Kennedy from Louisiana, Dan Sullivan from Arkansas, Susan Collins from Maine. What do they have in common? They're all Republican. In fact, we have, where's the numbers here? I've got it. 92 GOP senators collectively account for 92% of the reported big oil stock value among senators who hold such positions. 92%. Again, I'll say that again. 92% of Republicans in the Senate represent the amount of money donated, given by big oil. They stand to enrich themselves significantly. Again, the estimates are between $500 billion and $1 trillion invested in Venezuela over the next 10 years. 5 years, actually. Over the next 5 years. Over the next 5 years. But we can't expand SNAP. We can't guarantee affordable health care. Nothing to see here, though, right? The president himself, you know, when you're looking at financial disclosures from previous years, a massive investor in big oil. His family has portfolios that include big oil. Yeah, the percentage of Dems is 8%. That's still too high. But again, 92% of Republicans, here's the quote. The GOP's, this is from... It's from Politico. GOP senators collectively account for 92% of the reported big oil stock value among senators who hold positions. The rest would be Democrats or independents. Angus King's on the list. Tom Carper's on the list. Jackie Rosen, fossil fuel stock reported as part of her portfolio. Tom Carper from Delaware, Chevron, Shell, Total Energy, significantly smaller, but still holds a stake. 92% of Republicans are taking big oil money in the Senate. So everything, it's always about the money. It's always about the money. So again, there was an opportunity back in November for the Senate to pass a resolution that would not allow the president to take any military action in Venezuela. And all 51 Republican senators voted against it. Only 2 Republicans decided to say, yeah, we can't let this happen. Rand Paul, Lisa Murkowski. And then both senators from from Utah didn't vote. And people in our country, you really think you're going to take advantage of this? So there's some interesting sound that I want to play. I'm not sure if enough people are talking about this, but just the way in which the president posed this. So before that, I want to just remind you that as I read that article from Substack, what this person, Judith Dale, talked about was MAGA needs a recharge. So they're going to focus on bloodthirsty violence. And they're going to need people to say, this is strongman stuff. This is what we do as a country. So there's no weaker person to embody that sense of strength than our Secretary of Defense, the assistant manager to the assistant manager of war crimes. Here you go.
And he found out. As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision.
Just want to say this as somebody who grew up around alcoholics. Pete's drinking again. If he ever stopped, you can just tell.
The very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out.
See what I mean? And there are people that are hosting, right-wing lives, and they're like, "You see that?" Pete's like, "Yeah, you fucked around and found out." You just don't get it, do you? You just don't get it. They are pandering to you. They are speaking to you because they know how gullible and how bloodthirsty you are. They know they're taking advantage of it. They know you will not care. You will find a way, exactly, using FAFO. That's what I thought too. The Secretary of Defense, in charge of the most powerful nation of military in the world, is using FAFO. Like, it's not going to delay the midterms. We had elections when we were in Afghanistan, when we were in Iraq. We had elections when we were in Vietnam. I'm not worried about that. We'll talk about that down the road, but it's so fucking pitiful. So let's play a little bit of sound from some of the statements that the president's made, because I think this will tell you a lot. And again, this is something that our friends on the right don't understand. Okay, we're going to talk about how this relates to the e-files. I'm going to spend a large chunk of time on that because there's not necessarily any new reporting, but pieces are starting to come together from, the financial networks are intersecting with individuals. We've got more information about Lake Michigan. There's more talk about how Mar-a-Lago was really the hub behind this. And again, all of this is not just, I want people to understand, it's not just to distract from the Epstein files, because that is very, very true. It, by and large, is intended to be a distraction. But they wouldn't be doing it just for that, in my opinion. They're doing it because there's billions of dollars to be made. Billions. Even more than that, potentially. Billions of dollars. Okay? And then this literally could reset the entire world order, which, again, our friends on the right, not exactly the brightest bulbs in the tree. But this is what I thought this was kind of an interesting statement for the president to make. There's a few of them. Here you go.
As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the bad.
Erica, I'm sorry. That was an accident. You don't have to. You can ignore that if you want. Unless you want to come up and talk, but that was an accident. Didn't mean to send you that invite. My apologies, friend. Sorry about that.
Badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country.
Okay, that's one part. And that's not even the one that I wanted to really play for you, but this is part of it. We'll talk about this on the backside as far as my theory on this thing. And again, because we can think in this space, and our friends on the right don't.
Up administrating Venezuela for years,
Well, it won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial. So it's not going to cost us anything. We will. Well, we want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That's what was happening, and you don't want to have that. But we're going to be rebuilding, and we're not spending money. The oil companies are going to go in. They're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. A lot of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend.
Who is?
So it's going to be going to be a very important. This is a very big evening that took place last night. We have to.
So think about this, friends, right? Part of the big, beautiful bill and part of Republican economic plans for decades has been to provide tax subsidies, tax breaks, and corporate welfare to the biggest companies we have, including big oil. So as you just heard, the president said, We're not going to have to worry about that. So your taxpayer dollars are going to allow big oil to go to Venezuela, steal their product. They will get reimbursed because of the amount of money that they will make. Are you going to see any of that? Of course not. So once again, traditional Republican trickle-down economics, because of course we know that works so well. Trickle-down economics, taxpayer dollars going to support corporations enriching themselves on your back. You just heard the president say it. It's not going to cost them anything. We're going to get the money back. Not we, the American people. Oh, no. Not we, the American people. We, the corporate class. We, the investors. We, the members of the Senate. Those 51 senators who voted against stopping the president from doing this. They're going to enrich themselves. Do you really think you're going to get a seat at the table, friends on the right? Do you really think they care about you? Do you really think you're going to get some of this money back? I know Mr. Global's been talking about this. I've seen others. There's reporting that Exxon's not even interested because they know how much it costs to refine this. So that's why I said it's not just about the oil. It's about, just like it wasn't just about protecting or bringing peace to the Gaza Strip. That was about investments. That was about investments and enrichment for people. The $112 billion that Jared Kushner's a part of and Steve Witkoff are a part of. That's investments to turn Gaza into the Mediterranean, or into the jewel of the Mediterranean, right? Similarly in Ukraine, part of the deal, the deal that is negotiated on behalf of not the United States, not Ukraine, but corporate oligarchs, would be access to the resources of eastern Ukraine and western Russia, releasing some of Russia's money and, of course, coordinating with corporate capitalists around the world, taking advantage of investment opportunities. Do you understand? Mega, do you guys understand that they are doing this because you guys fucking love it? You don't care. He's holding the Epstein files, in case you didn't know. Sorry, probably can't see the picture very well. My bad. Seriously. And again, somebody just said, what would Kamala have done different? We're not talking about Kamala. I can tell you this. We wouldn't be a national fucking embarrassment if Kamala Harris was the president, a global embarrassment. But you don't care. So instead, the president is flat out telling you, oil companies are going to make billions of dollars. American taxpayer dollars are going to pay them to do it, and we're not going to get the money back. And the wealth gap is going to get wider and wider, and our president and the administration does not give a fuck about any of the Venezuelan people. And how interesting is it now that we see this? All of a sudden, MAGA is cheering for brown-skinned people, celebrating their freedom? Are you fucking kidding me? You salivate every single day. You see ICE roll up and drag somebody out of their house, removing the temporary protected status of Venezuelans. You don't care. You don't care. You just like to fuck around and find out. You don't give a shit. Simple question. Are you comfortable with the president lying to you? And now that he's lied, do you give a fuck? Some more sound to play.
Well, Russia, when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries,
going to start selling oil to Russia? You heard it.
Is that want oil? We're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to give it to them. In other words, we'll be selling oil, probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce very much because their infrastructure was so bad. So we'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now. But I would say many more will come.
Yeah. No big deal, right? No threat of national security. We're going to just start selling oil to Russia. We're going to just do it through OPEC. We're going to do it through Venezuela so that we can justify it. But it's not about oil, right, MAGA? It's not. It's about drugs, right? It's about keeping the Western Hemisphere safe, right? Okay. That's fine. Nothing to see here. Here's let me see if I think I've got a couple more. Well, since this is MTG's last day in Congress, let's just hear what she had to say about this, because again, she's been an American firster from the very beginning. I will give her that credit that she's been pretty consistent about that. Here you go. This is what she had to say.
Maduro. And of course, I'm happy for the people of Venezuela to be liberated. But Americans celebrated the liberation of the Iraqi people after Saddam Hussein. They celebrated the liberation of the Libyan people after Gaddafi. And this is the same Washington playbook that we are so sick and tired of, that doesn't serve the American people, but actually serves the big corporations, the banks, and the oil executives. And so my pushback here is on the Trump administration that campaigned on Make America Great Again, that we thought was putting America first. I want to see domestic policy be the priority that helps Americans afford life after 4 disastrous years of the Biden administration. I want to see domestic policies that prioritizes jobs and affordable housing for Americans after 4 disastrous years of the Biden administration. And I want to see domestic priorities that put Americans first in regards of health care. Health insurance costs too much, car insurance, home insurance. And these are issues that matter to Americans. We don't consider Venezuela our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is right here in the 50 United States, not in the Southern Hemisphere.
Well, let me ask you, because
she's not wrong, right? That's the whole fucking point. This is what I'm talking about when we're talking about the hypocrisy, right? And I just want to make sure that people don't forget that, okay? I really want to make sure that people don't forget that. A couple of thank yous real quick. This might have come from a couple days ago, but I just want to thank you, Megan. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate you guys. Also, thank you to, that one, I already got that one. But I will adjust this. So again, she's not wrong. she's not wrong. Did my parents teach me to swear? Yeah, my mother had a massive fucking potty mouth. Why do you fucking care? Are you triggered by swearing? Everybody drop a fuck in the chat. Go ahead. You have my permission. Not like you need it. Who fucking cares? Fuck, exactly. Fuck it. Fuck. Who the fuck cares? Why the fuck do you care? Who the fuck gives a shit? Why the fuck do you care? Are you fucking triggered by fucking words like fuck? Fuck's my favorite fucking word. Let's go. So, that's where we sit, right? 92% of the money that goes to Congress from big oil goes to Republicans in the Senate. It's not as easy to break it down in the House because of how quickly it changes, but estimates are that that's well over 65%. So giving the president license to enrich himself under the guise of fuck around and find out. Okay. Yeah, that tracks. I got a few more. Because I want to go back in time a little bit, because I think the most important part of this whole thing is the hypocrisy and the statements that the president has made prior. First, I want to hear from Anna Paulina Luna, because she's a Mensa. And again, part of the justification that they're trying to use is that Maduro is a criminal. I'm not going to argue that he's a fucking horrible person. I'm not going to argue that. But when she goes on network TV, she gets blasted. Here you go. This is Anna Paulina Luna.
Ultimately, again, I think President Trump is doing will stabilize the United States for generations.
Anna Paulina, he's not going to pick you. I know you think he might, but he's not.
To come, and it will ultimately be responsible for many Americans not dying from fentanyl overdoses, etc. It has been interesting to note, though, that you're seeing the president and many countries that have been run by cartels, for example, Mexico, react in a negative light as opposed to countries like Argentina, for example.
Okay, so 2 things. Did you read the indictment that was unsealed by Pam Bondi?
I read some of it, and I know I think it's one of the first pages that cocaine is referenced.
Okay. Fentanyl is not mentioned in that, and neither is this alleged hit that you're talking about,
That's right.
Nicolas Maduro putting out on Senator Marco Rubio.
Yeah,
Why would the
right.
Trump administration not indict him on what you're making to be a huge claim by an adversary of the United States against a sitting U.S. senator?
It's
Why do you think they didn't?
It's definitely an important piece of information, and I will make sure that I follow up with Todd Blanche and suggest that they try to charge him for that as well.
I know, but that's not what you're saying. You're justifying the actions of the administration. You're justifying the actions of the administration by citing fentanyl and citing an alleged hit on Senator Marco Rubio. Both of those.
Fentanyl and cocaine and drugs have been definitely trafficked out of Venezuela.
Fentanyl is not mentioned at all in the indictment against Nicolas Maduro.
I'm actually telling you confirmed information. I'm telling you.
No, you're not.
It's not mentioned. It's not mentioned in the indictment.
I would reach out to the secretary's office and see if Nicolas Maduro put out a hit on him.
Oh, okay.
And I just said that I would follow up with the DOJ.
I'm just telling you it's not mentioned in the indictment, and I'm asking you to explain why it's not mentioned in the indictment.
Department of Justice. I don't know. I don't work at the Department of Justice, but I think that would be a good thing for you guys to follow up on.
Do you think maybe it's not a real thing do you think it's maybe not a real thing that they have any evidence to substantiate it?
Which is why it's not in the indictment?
No, I don't think that it's not a real thing. I think it definitely happened, and I definitely confirmed it with two separate people before I came onto your show, because I wanted to share that with you. And I would suggest that you guys follow up with the secretary's office, because I do think that that's something that the American people should know.
I mean, come on. She's called out, literally, that's like you're debating a MAGA. People like For Real or Too Fake who's in here. That's what they'll do, right? They'll just spin off of it. Well, there's evidence in the indictment. Did you read the indictment? Well, yeah, the first couple pages. Well, nowhere in the indictment are any of these things that you claimed. Well, somebody told me. Well, who told you? A couple people. So who are they? So who are they? Exactly. Nuh-uh. Oh, do I have that? Did you read the indictment?
Nuh-uh.
Well, you said that do you believe that there's fentanyl involved?
Nuh-uh.
Wait a minute. You said that you got evidence from, so are you confirming that you're lying?
Nuh-uh.
Wait a minute. You're lying to us because you said all this information was in the indictment.
Nuh-uh.
No, but you did say that.
Nuh-uh.
No, but you really did.
Nuh-uh.
That's what it's like. That's what it's like. I mean, good for the journalist there to call her out. It's not in the fucking indictment. None of that bullshit is. But of course, our less than intelligent friends will just grab that. Well, I saw Annapolina Luna, and she said, by the way, she's so pretty. And she said that there's fent, the F drug, and they took out a hit on Marco. Well, was that in the indictment? I don't know. She told me that. But don't you want the truth? Nuh-uh. It's what it feels like. It's totally what it feels like. Okay. Gifting suspended again. God damn it. The journalist was, who is that? His name is, I forget who it is. What is his name? I don't know his name. I'll try to get it for you. Okay. Just so a few more things on this particular topic. Let's go back in time a bit, shall we? Actually, let's not do that. Let's not do that yet. Let's talk about Marco Rubio, because Marco's doing the round. So he was on Meet the Press, and he was also on whatever the ABC show is, the comparable ABC show. So asking questions. I want you to listen for his answer. So Kristen Welker asks, Mr. Secretary, who is in charge? Are you running Venezuela right now? I want you to listen if you can hear an answer.
Who is in charge? Are you running Venezuela right now?
Ayman. Yeah, Ayman Mohadeen. Thank you. It's Ayman Mohadeen. That's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I keep people, fixating on that. Here's the bottom line on it is we expect to see changes in Venezuela. Changes of all kinds, long-term, short.
Wait, that's not the question you were asked, Marco. Again, doesn't this feel like debating MAGA? This is what they do. Here's the question again.
Is in charge. Are you running Venezuela right now?
Yeah, I mean, I keep people, fixating on that. Here's the bottom line on it is we expect to see changes in Venezuela. Changes of all kinds, long-term, short-term. We'd love to see all kinds of changes. But the most...
We expect to see? We expect to see changes? But that's not regime change, right? Got it.
Immediate changes are the ones that are in the national interest of the United States. That's why we're involved here, because of how it applies and has a direct impact on the United States. Okay, we are not going to be able to allow in our hemisphere a country that becomes a crossroads for the activities of all of our adversaries around the world. We just can't allow it. We can't have a country where the people in charge of its military and in charge of its police department are openly cooperating with drug trafficking organizations. We're not going to allow that. These things are direct threats to the United States, and we intend to use every element of leverage that we have to ensure that that changes. The one I would point everyone to is that our military is helping the Coast Guard conduct a law enforcement function, which is not just the capture of Maduro, but the enforcement of our sanctions.
Oh, wait, so we can use the Coast Guard for things like that? To enforce sanctions? To interdict drug boats? Thank you for telling on the administration, Marco. Yeah, apparently we don't need missiles to take out suspected drug dealers in the Caribbean. We can use the Coast Guard. Cool, good to know.
Go to court, we get a warrant, we seize the boats. And we
go to court, we get a warrant, we seize the boats. Got it. Just, I want to make sure we understood that properly, that the way it's supposed to work, like you just said, is that we go to court, we get a warrant, we seize the boats. Cool.
I think that's this tremendous leverage, incredible, crippling leverage, which we intend to continue to use until we see the changes that we need to see that are benefit to the American people. And by the way, we believe to the people of Venezuela as well.
Did you hear an answer? The question was, who's in charge? Are you running Venezuela right now? I didn't hear an answer. Well, he got interviewed again, this time by George Stephanopoulos on This Week. Maybe he answers the question here because he's asked the same question.
Is the United States running Venezuela right now?
Well, I've explained once again, I'll do it one more time. What we are running is the direction that this is going to moving forward. And
so we're going to tell another country how to run their country, but that's not regime change, right? So we're literally going to tell another country how to run their country. Okay.
That is, we have leverage. This leverage we are using and we intend to use. We started using already. You can see where they are running out of storage capacity. In a few weeks, they're going to have to start pumping oil unless they make changes. And that leverage that we have with the armada of boats that are currently positioned allow us to seize any sanctioned boats coming into or out of Venezuela, loaded with oil or on its way in to pick up oil. And we can pick and choose which ones we go after.
We can just pick and choose. We can just pick and choose. But, you know, America first. Right, got it.
We have court orders for each one. That will continue to be in place until the people who have control over the levers of power in that country make changes that are not just in the interest of the people of Venezuela, but are in the interest of the United States and the things that we care about. That's what we intend to do. The legal authority is the court orders that we have.
When the president was asked yesterday who will be running Venezuela, he said it was you. He said it was the defense secretary.
Yeah.
He said it was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Are you running Venezuela right now?
Right.
George, I've explained again that the leverage that we have here is the leverage of the quarantine. So that is a Department of War operation, conducting, in some cases, law enforcement functions with the Coast Guard on the seizure of these boats. I'm obviously very intricately involved in these policies. And by the way, very intricately involved in moving forward. And what we hope to see some of these changes being addressed. Unfortunately, the person that was there before, who was not the legitimate president of the country, was someone we could not work with, was someone that we could not, he had already...
Oh, okay. So again, nobody here is supporting Nicolas Maduro, but for the for the Trump administration to say that he is illegitimate, it is their country. It is their country. You can say it's illegitimate. Don't forget, because tomorrow is the 5th year anniversary of January 6th, and we're going to spend some time on that tomorrow. Don't forget that for years, the President of the United States, the twice impeached, 4-time indicted, abusing fraudster, convicted felon, name on a list predator, said that Joe Biden was the illegitimate president. See how that fucking tracks? And it's none of our goddamn fucking business.
He suckered the Biden administration a couple of years ago on a deal he didn't keep, and this is someone we simply couldn't work with. We are hopeful that there are people in place now. We're going to find out. The proof will be in what they do or fail to do. That will start making some of these changes that will ultimately lead to a Venezuela that looks substantially and dramatically different from what's been in place for 15 years. But my number one objective is America.
Really? Your number one objective is America? Which one? Which one? North America? South America, Central America. Your primary objective, Marco, is the United States? You like the 1%ers, you mean? The 1%ers? Okay. Again, asked by 2 separate interviewers, are you running the country? No answer. Crickets. Okay. Nothing to see here, though. It's totally fine. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. So, I found this clip from the movie with Dustin Hoffman and Robert De Niro, Wag the Dog, and I thought it was incredibly relevant. In particular, because I forgot all about this, that they are actually talking about Venezuela in this clip. So here you go.
Boost your war? Not a war. It's a pageant. We need a theme, a song, some visuals. We need, it's a pageant. It's a pageant. It's a pageant. That's what it is. Country's a war. It's Mr. America in your bird parks. Why Venezuela? Because, well, they have to have something we want. Well, I'm sure they. What do we have that they want? Oh, freedom. Well, why would they want that? Oppress? No. They want to destroy the godless Satan of the United. They want to destroy our way of life, all right? Venezuela. Terrorists have placed a suitcase bomb in Canada in an attempt to infiltrate the bomb into the USA. Oh, that's good.
Fucking Wag the Dog, man. This is what, again, I'm going to spend some time taking you guys through the American experiment when it comes to regime change in other parts of the world. And again, like I said earlier, with the exception of Panama, and even that's a stretch, I'm being generous, it's never fucking worked. And it's always the same fucking lie. It is in defense of American national security and sovereignty. It is Wag the Dog Redux 2026. But again, nothing to see here, right? Totally fine. Just a coincidence. Just a coincidence that Wall Street is now spending time checking out, scoping the revenue opportunities. It's no big deal that members of Congress, when given an opportunity to vote against the president having this power, said no. And then we find out, just coincidentally, that 92% of all big oil money flows to Republicans in Congress. But again, nothing to see here, right? Nothing to see here. It's totally fine. Just a coincidence. All right. That's fine. Hey, Smitty, how are you? Good to see you, friend. Thanks for having me up in your live yesterday, friends. So-called Smitty. Smitty, say hi in the chat. Friends, if you do not follow my friend Smitty, please do. Amazing dude. Very generous with your time yesterday, friend. I really appreciate you for letting me up and spend some time in your live. It was great. I always enjoy in your space. And again, so if you don't follow So-called Smitty, please follow him. There you go. Hey, everyone. Right there. I'll pin it. Hang on a second. Follow that dude. He's a good man. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of the spin, right? So you're going to hear from Tom Cotton first. Tom Cotton is one of these people. Tom Cotton is the guy who came out. Don't forget, Tom Cotton is the Republican who came out after the double tap boat strike and said that boat was on fire, but those people were a threat. That guy, Tom Cotton. Tom Cotton is not a stupid person. He's a smart guy. But this is what happens again when you're answered questions where most people with a fucking brain, there I said fuck again for somebody who's going to be intimidated by that. Most people with a fucking brain can look through the lies. Here you go.
To run Venezuela.
Well, who's not running Venezuela anymore is Nicolas Maduro, and that's a great thing.
It's not the question. What does it mean for the U.S. to run Venezuela? Let me start it again. It's not the question. What does it mean for the U.S. to be running Venezuela?
The U.S. to run Venezuela.
Well, who's not running Venezuela anymore is Nicolas Maduro, and that's a great thing, and it's a great day for America and for the people of Venezuela and really the civilized world. Nicolas Maduro was a indicted drug trafficker in U.S. courts. He was an illegitimate communist dictator. His drugs had killed.
Illegitimate according to whom? Illegitimate according to whom? We just get to decide? So the world knows that Vladimir Putin was illegitimately elected. Are we going to fly into the Kremlin in the middle of the night and take Vlad? Do we think Kim Jong-un is the rightful winner of elections in North Korea? Viktor Orban in Hungary? Are we the ones that get to make the fucking determination? Is that us? Okay.
Hundreds of Arkansans, thousands of Americans. And he was in league with anti-American countries around the world like Cuba and Iran or Islamic terrorists. It's a good thing that he's in a jail now in New York City. The president said that when the president said the United States is going to be
Yeah, Bibi Netanyahu, another one. Another good call. Bolsonaro, another one.
running Venezuela, it means that the new leaders of Venezuela need to meet our demands. Our demands are now what
the new leaders of Venezuela need to meet our demands. See, this is a thing that I wish people on the right, especially the MAGA right, would just take a moment to step back and rewind the tape in their brain, because there's lots of room up there. Rewind the tape to 10 years ago, when all you heard was, we don't want to be spending money or sending our troops to foreign lands anymore, America first. And now it's, cool, we got a country in Central America, South America that we can take over and run it our way. Vacation, that means I'm going to get some access to some of that fucking money. And they're laughing at you.
they were before yesterday, that we want them to stop the drug trafficking. We want them to stop the weapons trafficking. We want them to expel.
But none of that came up in those pressers, did they, Tom? It was all about oil and regime change.
Cubans and the Iranians and the Islamic radicals, and we want them to return to the civilized world and be a good neighbor that contributes to stability, order, and prosperity in our own backyard.
But he literally turned around and pointed to his secretaries of state, defense, chairman of the Joint Chiefs.
Yes.
And said, they're going to run Venezuela.
That's right.
Well, I know that Secretary Rubio in particular is in consultation with other members of the Maduro government. He's also in consultation with members of the opposition. They're working through what an interim or transition government would look like. Obviously, General Kay and our entire military deserve our praise at an amazing raid, maybe the most complex operation that's occurred in.
See, keep that in mind too, because again, like I read earlier, that article from Substack, the militarism. It's the glorification of the warfighter ethos. It was elaborate fuck around and find out middle of the night. Our warfighters, our war heroes. By the way, the president acknowledged the men and women involved. When Pete Hegseth addressed that, he only addressed the men involved. Just a little side note.
The 5 years Donald Trump has been president without a single American life being lost. And I think we'll see whether...
except for the 2 service members that just lost their lives in Syria. You must have forgot about them, right? Cool.
The vice president of Venezuela, who is sanctioned by the United States and many other countries, who is in league and hand-chosen by Maduro, wants to turn over a new leaf. I think we'll see whether or not they're going to let the opposition back into the country and have new elections, which is what the opposition itself wants. So there's still a lot of questions to be answered, but it's a great day that Nicolas Maduro, an illegitimate communist dictator and indicted drug trafficker, is no longer in charge of Venezuela.
But I guess the question is, who is right now? The vice president who you talked about, who I'll get to in a minute, Rodriguez, she technically, I guess, the Supreme Court said that she is in charge. Is she the person that the U.S. does officially recognize as a leader? And then again, I just want to go back to the president of the United States said, we Americans are now in charge, or are now running Venezuela. I mean, that's a big statement.
Yeah, it is. So Tom Cotton didn't answer. Marco Rubio, who was told by his daddy that he was going to be running the country, he didn't answer. So who is? Who is? Weird how that worked out. Okay. Just as a side note, you know how the president just got the FIFA Peace Prize? And how he just is so fucking desperate to get the Nobel Peace Prize because Obama got one? I did a quick count. Since he's been in office, he's bombed Iran, Iraq, Nigeria, Somalia, Syria, Venezuela, Yemen, and he's armed Bibi Netanyahu, who's carried out bombings in Palestine, Iran, Syria, and Lebanon. Okay? Are we okay with that? Iran, I might have missed some, but that's the list that I came up with. Iran, Iraq, Nigeria, Somalia, Syria, Venezuela, Yemen, and continues to arm Bibi. But he wants the Nobel Peace Prize. And he's got his FIFA Peace Prize. And by the way, Israel Israel came up with their own little peace prize to give to him. Do you understand, MAGA? Do you understand why it is that we tell you these things? So your argument now is what? Are you going to answer like Marco Rubio? You going to answer like Tom Cotton? Probably. All right. So I want to first play you. This is Walter Masterson did a great little video on this. This is going to go back to an interview with Tulsi Gabbard from 2019. Okay, before she was part of the cabinet, before she was part of Trump's cabinet, before she was at that point in time, she was going to be a candidate to run for the presidency. You remember that she ran in the 2020 primaries, right? So just listen to what she had to say. In fact, I want to play this. I think it's important because this is one of the reasons that Trump told us. Good morning, Michelle. That she told us, or that Trump told us, one of the reasons why she was going to be part of the cabinet because of her feelings regarding imperialism and interventionism and regime change. So here you go.
Invaded Venezuela and kidnapped Prime Minister Nicolas Maduro. I know you're expecting me to criticize it, but I actually agree with Trump's Director of National Intelligence.
What we are hearing is an increased saber-rattling intention saying the United States needs to send in the U.S. military.
Again, this goes back to 2019.
Now to wage yet another wasteful, counterproductive regime change war. And once again, it's being done under the guise of humanitarian. Throughout history, every time the United States goes into another country and topples a dictator or topples a government, the outcome has been disastrous for the people in these countries. That's why we should use our leadership in the world to try to broker a diplomatic solution. I can tell you as a soldier, Martha, I've seen firsthand the high cost of war, and pushing for this civil war, pushing for the use of military force will only end up with more suffering and death and disaster for the Venezuelan people.
The director of...
So there you go. So that's Tulsi Gabbard. Her entire career has been built on anti-interventionism, anti-imperialism. She's been consistent on that. Again, told or is one of the reasons that she became part of the Trump cabinet as DNI, Director of National Intelligence. So what are we supposed to do with that? What are we supposed to do? And where is she, by the way? Has anybody heard from Tulsi? I've not heard from her. I'm just curious where she is. So let's go back in time a little bit now, right? We've heard that statement. This was the president just a few weeks ago, right around the time that he pardoned or was considering pardoning or had already pardoned the president of Honduras. He was being interviewed. He got cornered on Air Force One asking these questions. I'm going to play it for you because, again, we're being told that the reason that there's justification to go after and kidnap foreign presidents is because he's a threat. Okay, cool. Here you go.
Notorious drug trafficker.
Well, I don't know who you're talking about. Which
Juan
one?
Orlando Hernandez.
Well, I was asked by...
First of all, I don't know who you're talking about. The guy that you just pardoned, you don't know who you're talking about. So did you use the auto pen? What about Biden? But did you use the auto pen? You don't know who it was? You didn't know who CZ was either, right? The guy that you pardoned from Binance? Okay, cool.
Honduras, many of the people of Honduras, they said it was a Biden setup. I don't mean Biden. Look, Biden didn't know he was alive, but it was the people that surround the Resolute desk, surround Biden when he was there, which was about very little time. And the people of Honduras really thought he was set up and it was a terrible thing. He was the president of the country. And they basically said he was a drug dealer because he was the president of the country. And they said it was a Biden administration setup. And I looked at the facts and I agreed with them.
What evidence did you share that he was set up and that he wasn't?
Well, you take a look. I mean, they could say that you take any country you want. If somebody sells drugs in that country, that doesn't mean you arrest the president.
It doesn't? So if someone is selling schmugs in their country, it doesn't mean you arrest the president? Dude, isn't that what you just fucking did? Okay.
And put him in jail for the rest of his life. And that includes this country, okay? To be honest, I mean, if somebody does something wrong, do you put the president of the country in jail? They said it was a Biden setup. It was a Biden administration setup. And you have a big race going on this week, next week. I think.
Again, I'll play the whole thing and I won't talk over it, just so you can hear exactly the ultimate hypocrisy in what he says.
Would pardon a notorious drug trafficker?
Well, I don't know who you're talking about. Which
Juan Orlando Hernandez.
Well, I was told, I was asked by Honduras, many of the people of Honduras, they said it was a Biden setup. I don't mean Biden. Look, Biden didn't know he was alive, but it was the people that surround the Resolute desk, surround Biden when he was there, which was about very little time. And the people of Honduras really thought he was set up and it was a terrible thing. He was the president of the country. And they basically said he was a drug dealer because he was the president of the country. And they said it was a Biden administration setup. And I looked at the facts and I agreed with them.
What evidence did you share that he was set up and that he wasn't?
Well, you take a look. I mean, they could say that you take any country you want. If somebody sells drugs in that country, that doesn't mean you arrest the president and put him in jail for the rest of his life.
Doesn't?
That includes this country, okay? To be honest, I mean, if somebody does something wrong, you put the president of the country in jail. They said it was a Biden setup. It was a Biden administration setup. And you have a big race going on this week, next week. I think.
So anybody want to explain that? If being told, well, we are being told that apparently Nicolas Maduro is a threat to the Western Hemisphere and to the American public because he's a drug dealer. Although we know that the bulk of the drugs does not come to America from Venezuela, but we're told that even if that's the case, you can't just go around arresting the president. But what about Biden? But that's exactly what you just did, right? And we know that the indictment does not include the F drug. We know that. And even though Ana Paulina Luna, who is obviously auditioning to be Mr. Trump's fourth wife, or who knows how many at this point, but just a tiny little bit of hypocrisy, right? But of course, our friends on the right will be like, well, Biden. Mm-hmm. Okay. I just want to make sure I understood that. All right, now I'm going to play you a little montage of some of the things that our president has said himself about no new wars and about regime change. Jackie Alamany is the reporter on this. Here you go.
Attack Venezuela, arrest its president, and run the country is a stunning about-face for a politician who railed against foreign wars and regime change in 3 presidential campaigns.
You're tired of the reckless foreign policy, the crazy wars that are never won. We will abandon the policy of reckless regime change. Stupid people that have been running this operation for 30, 40 years, and they come out against me, and all they did is stick us in these endless wars. We're pulling finally these endless wars, and we had to fight other things. When I'm back in the White House, we will expel the warmongers.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to hear the president talking about pulling out.
Hey now. The profiteers and take over our government, and we will restore world peace.
Most Republicans have backed the Venezuela operation, but now Trump's changing definition of America first before our eyes threatens to widen a rift with his MAGA base. Former ally Marjorie Taylor Greene said bluntly on social media, this is what many in MAGA thought they voted to end.
Correct.
Boy, we were wrong.
Correct. So, again, is there any commentary from our friends on the right when the president for years has said it himself, no more regime change? No more regime change. So what would you describe what we're doing? I'm waiting for that. Like, I don't want to give you any ideas as to what to call it, but that's what I'm waiting for now, right? You're going to call it something different. You're going to call it, well, it's not regime change because we're just replacing the regime. It's not regime change, it's regime replacement. Got it. Okay, I just want to make sure I heard that correctly. This is here's another little bit of sound from the same era. so to speak. Here you go. This is from April of 2023.
Start a war because they said I had that personality to start a war. They remember that? Oh, we can't vote for him. He's going to start a war. No, I used my personality that we didn't have to have wars. Sure. I was the first president in
This is from last year.
Decades who started no new wars. Who started no new wars and no new wars. No new wars. We don't need the wars, foreign lands, countries you've never heard of, countries that don't even want us there. I was the first president in decades who started no new wars. I was the first president in decades who started no new wars. We will expel the warmongers from our government. You know, we never got into a war with me. I have a great record. We had peace. We had prosperity. We had no wars. We had no wars. That started no wars. We didn't have a war. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will expel the warmongers from our government. And we had no wars. When you see all the people that died in these horrible wars in the Middle East and everything else, countries didn't want us. Look at Trump. Just look at this guy. He's going to go to war. He's going to take us. No. Look at me. I'm the one that kept us out of war. You know, I'm the only president that didn't start a war. I didn't start a war. This president, no wars. Started no wars. You're going to end up in a war. Or war or no war. They like a war. They love wars. You know, they love killing people. It's so wonderful. You know, I'm the only president in many, many decades that didn't start a war. They're the party of endless wars. I was the first president in decades who started no new war. There were wars all over. He said, bring back Trump. It'll all end. It all ended. We had no problem. I'm going to keep you out of wars. I kept you out of wars. We had no wars with Donald Trump as your president. Remember when crooked Hillary Clinton used to say, he's going to get us into a war. Look at him. Look at his rhetoric. I said, no, my rhetoric's going to keep us out of wars. That's what happened.
Again, the argument that we're going to get from the feeble-minded, gullible simps on the right is, this isn't a war. Okay, then I would like you to walk up to someone who served in Afghanistan or Iraq or Somalia or wherever it might be and tell them that they weren't at war. Because if your argument is, we haven't declared war since WW2, and technically that is correct. It was the last time Congress declared war, because in our Constitution, Congress is required to declare war. So what would you call it? And again, I'll ask you this question. It's going to require a little bit of thought, okay? Why did the Secretary of Defense want to change the Defense Department to the Department of War? Why does he talk about war fighters? Why does he talk about the warrior ethos? Why does he talk about the precision strikes? Why does he get his micro dick gets semi-turgid when he discusses this stuff, and y'all do the same thing? Why the fuck would they make those changes? Now, if you want to go down that particular road, fog of war, exactly. Who said that? Amy, you're right. Yeah, fog of war. Exactly. Thank you for advertising that and saying that. The fog of war. After, again, that's not what he tried to claim was smoke from the vessels that they just fucking blew up. He said that's the fog of war. If that's war, according to the president, according to the Secretary of Defense, if it's war in the Caribbean, that's a really great point. Thank you for that. Hearts in the chat for Amy who said that. He called it the fog of war. He didn't call it fog of carrying out targeted strikes. He didn't call it fog of replacing a dictator. He didn't call it fog of go steal the fucking oil. He called it the fog of war. So tell me what the difference is between what happened in the Caribbean and what happened over the weekend in Venezuela. I'll wait. There is none. There is none. Yeah, the fog of police action. Exactly. Exactly. I saw somebody just make a comment. Is that true? So it does. Yeah, Tim Walz has decided to not run for governor of Minnesota. I'm not surprised, to be honest. It would just be a distraction. I'm not surprised. But I'll pivot briefly. We have a sounder. Hold on. It does look like it's official that he has pulled out of the race for governor. And I say that because I think it's interesting, because I don't know if I discussed this last week, but Kamala Harris has not made an announcement about whether or not she's going to be running for the presidency. But she's started a PAC. And one thing that we can all say is that she's an amazing fundraiser. I don't know if that means that she is prepping for a run at the White House herself, or if she is just going to help other candidates get elected. But Tim Walz now not deciding to run for the governor. Maybe you run it back. I don't know. Anyway. So which is it? Is it the fog of a police action? How would you call it? How would you call it anything other than war? Okay. Just making sure I understand. I'm trying to track it. So here's a little bit more from the president about his stance on regime change, right? Because of course he wants you guys to stay focused on stuff that is irrelevant.
Stop wars. No more wars, no more disruptions. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Under Trump, we will have no more wars, no more disruptions, and we will have prosperity and peace for all. I am the candidate of peace. I am peace.
Is he the candidate of peace? So you're also going to hear this whole peace through strength. Well, what is peace through strength? Well, what is that? I've got a bigger missile than you do?
Hey now.
Remember what I always say. Dudes who talk about the size of their wrench have a tiny wrench. You don't be talking about being the president of peace unless you're a fucking warmonger. Okay. Just want to make sure, we're tracking here. All right, this goes back to like 2013, 2014. He's talking about his opposition to what we're witnessing. He sat down with Wolf Blitzer, and I found this interview, and this is crazy.
The speaker? Well, when she first got in and was named speaker, I met her, and I'm very impressed by her. I think she's
talking about Nancy Pelosi.
Very impressive person. I like her a lot.
Huh.
But I was surprised that she didn't do more in terms of Bush and going after Bush. It just seemed like she was going to really look to impeach Bush and get him out of office, which personally I think would have been a wonderful thing.
They're impeaching him?
Absolutely, for the war. For the war.
Because of the conduct of the war.
Well, he lied. He got us into the war with lies. And
interesting.
I mean, look at the trouble Bill Clinton got into with something that was totally unimportant, and they tried to impeach him, which was nonsense. And yet Bush got us into this horrible war with lies, by lying, by saying they had weapons of mass destruction, by saying all sorts of things that turned out not to be true.
You're blaming President Bush for the maniacal.
I am blaming President Bush. I am blaming President Bush in 2003 for those fake weapons of mass destruction that never existed, and the con job that drove us into that war.
In the heat of the Vietnam War, a quiet revolution began. Not on the battlefield, but in the halls of power and journalists' offices. A 7,000-page secret exposed lies told by 4 U.S. presidents.
It's called the Pentagon Papers, and I'm going to get into that with you guys in just a little bit, about the lies regarding Southeast Asia. And I don't want to bring back if there's any Vietnam vets in here, I don't want to bring back any trauma, but I think it's important to talk about this in context, and we will. So again, just more examples. I'm not here to debate the legality, okay? Because we can look at this thing about how AUMF does authorize the president to do certain things, but there are war powers resolutions. There's a War Powers Act. We know the members of the Gang of Eight have still not been notified. All these kinds of things. I don't want to spend hours going through that exercise. What I want to focus on, and I'm hoping what you all can focus on too, is the hypocrisy. And why we talked about it the way we did this morning, connecting the dots to things that the America First movement and MAGA was sold on. No more sending sons and daughters overseas. Kamala Harris was going to start World War III. No more wasting money on endless wars. Again, it's not a police action. If Pete Kegsbreath can call what happened in the Caribbean war, the fog of war, then tell me what the difference is here. The answer is there is no difference. It's just your own bullshit. Okay. I think I have... Do I have any more to play for that? I covered those. I covered that. Everybody keep tapping, please. We're going to switch to Jeffrey in just a moment. I just want to make sure I've got all these sound bites played for you. I do. Okay. Let me just check over here real quick. All right. Francine. Francine says, I just found you. Love your show. Thank you, Francine. Appreciate you very, very much. That's very kind. Also, I think that is it. Yes. Let me fix this. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Bentley. So Jim Himes' interview yesterday, he lied about that. Great. So Bentley, you didn't know what the Gang of Eight was. Anyway, here we are again. So this is my point. I'm not going to debate that. It's irrelevant because it won't matter because MAGA will just come up with some fucking excuse. Where I want you guys is to put pressure on them to explain their hypocrisy. It's one of two things. You either don't give a fuck that we are just doing more imperialism and more regime change, or you just like being lied to. Which it's one of the two. Because you cannot run around saying that Donald Trump has never talked about, being opposed to regime change. Or actually, he's been opposed to it. His entire MAGA movement, his entire America First movement was based on it. Okay? So just keep that in mind. I have to fix this thing too. Hang on a second. The goal thing is so fucking weird. I've got to do this. I don't even know what to do. Anyway, need a new goal? Yes. Anyway, it's done. Who cares? Sorry. Okay, so that's the hypocrisy, right? And to be perfectly honest, it doesn't matter, But I think it's worthy of mocking. And force them to fucking answer a question. Force them to. Ask them to explain why they are suddenly okay. And if they want to bring up what isn't war, then why did Pete Hegseth call it war in the Caribbean? What's the difference? Okay? All right. So let's get into this. I want a couple more things. There's an article in Politico that I thought was very interesting about how this could potentially change the world. And I think it's important that we talk about, so foreign policy is complicated and there's some things that we don't understand. And I've talked oftentimes about why I think it was really detrimental to American, to American interests was the lack of funding or money's cut to USAID, specifically because we're talking about soft power. We've had this conversation before about the reason that soft power is so important from a diplomacy perspective is that gives countries, especially third world countries that benefit from American power and might in the economy, when American ships and or American troops show up with their flags and their U.S. military and they're providing food or providing clean water or providing, medicine or whatever that might be, education, building schools. Those are all things that help you develop these relationships. Well, gifting suspended. Great. Fucking awesome. Love the TikTok shop. We love it so much. Love it. Those things are important because it does give you, for lack of a better term, moral standing in the world. Okay? So now that we've cut all that funding for USAID, now that we're blowing up Iran and Iraq and Syria and Somalia and Venezuela and Yemen, et cetera, not only are we doing that, we're cutting funding for USAID, which means we're not supporting these organizations anymore, NGOs, whatever you want to call them. We're not supporting these organizations anymore. Instead, what's happening is other countries are going to move in, right? China in particular. We've talked about this many, many times. So what's happening now, because, again, it's not American best, well, the claim is that it's American best interest. It's not. It's a very select few people who will benefit. So this story, the title of the story is, again, this is from the Political magazine. Trump's attack on Venezuela could change the world. Here's how. I'm just going to read you a few excerpts from it. U.S. interventions in Venezuela is forcing a geopolitical reckoning in Washington, throughout the Western Hemisphere, and around the world. Trump's decision to launch a surprise military action and extract Nicolas Maduro ended a years-long standoff with Caracas in a matter of hours. But the move has opened up a new set of questions. What does this mean for the rest of Latin America? How will adversaries like Russia, China, and Iran recalibrate? What will be the impact on the global energy markets? And does this mark a permanent shift in U.S.'s projection of power? In his statement since the operation began, Trump has provided few hints about what comes next beyond the assurance that the operation was decisive and the U.S. will be running Venezuela for at least some period of time. To assess how the fall of Maduro and the manner of his removal could reshape global politics, Politico asked a range of experts from regional analysts to national security veterans to weigh in on this decision by the Trump administration and how it will reverberate in the rest of the world for years to come. This is the axis of authoritarians may feel additional urgency to prove their value. This is Ryan Berg. Okay, again, the axis of authoritarians may feel additional urgency to prove their value. Trump administration is serious about the Western Hemisphere strategy outlined in the recent National Security Strategy document, which we read. We're all like, holy fuck, this is fucking wild. Talk about isolationism. The fact that the president launched this operation hours after Maduro met with China sends a clear and unequivocal message to China and its role in the Americas. It also sends the message that the axis of authoritarians is strong during peacetime, but not decisive for one another in moments of greatest need when it comes to questions of regime security. Trump already pointed it out in his remarks on the military operation, where he specifically drew attention to other successful U.S. attacks on adversaries, including against Iran. The axis of authoritarians, and especially Russia and China, may feel additional urgency to prove their value in the face of pressure against their allies, such as Venezuela. So what does that tell? The signal, again, is to authoritarians, if the United States can do this, then why the fuck can't we? So what would happen if one of the authoritarian countries that we're talking about here decided to intervene in a Western democracy? Article 5 NATO, for one. What would happen? What would our response be? This is what I'm talking about. Like it's not just the hypocrisy, the lies. It's not just all of the bullshit connected to it. It's what it's what this signals the rest of the world. Right? You guys understand because you're smart. So what I want to do now is I want to take you through just some examples of where we have, stuck our fucking noses in and why it hasn't exactly been a very successful plan. And then I'm going to get into the Pentagon Papers, and we're going to talk about how all this, in my opinion, relates to Jeffrey and how much more we've got to uncover regarding Jeffrey because the Department of Justice missed a deadline over the weekend. All right. Here we go. I'm just going to give you some examples of how the U.S. has been involved in these regime changes for decades and how it's rarely, if ever, worked out. In 1953, the Iran coup, it's called Operation Ajax. The CIA orchestrated a coup that overthrew Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, who had nationalized Iran's oil industry. Mossadegh was ousted and replaced with the Shah, whose regime was more aligned with U.S. interests. Long-term resentment of U.S. interference helped fuel the 1979 Iranian Revolution, in which 40 Americans were held hostage for over a year, replacing the Shah with the anti-U.S. Islamic Republic. What's happened since then? Guatemala, 1954. It's called Operation PB Success. CIA, United States, a CIA-backed covert operation to remove democratically elected President Jacobo Arbenz. Arbenz was removed. Colonel Carlos Castillo Armas was installed. It led to decades of military rule and civil war with widespread violence and human rights abuses. Chile, 1973. A lot of people know about this one. U.S. supports, including covert CIA efforts called Project Fubelt, F-U-B-E-L-T, to prevent or destabilize the leftist government of Salvador Allende. Allende was overthrown and General Pinochet came to power. Pinochet's regime was authoritarian with widespread repression. Chile did not return to democracy until the late 1980s. Nearly 20 years. Nothing to see here, though, right? No similarities at all. Bay of Pigs, Cuba, 1961. Failed CIA-backed invasion of Cuba by anti-Castro exiles aiming to overthrow Castro's government. The invasion failed disastrously. Castro's regime consolidated power and aligned more closely with the Soviet Union. Gee, I wonder why they had to do that. Funny. Panama, 1989. U.S. military invasion to oust dictator Manuel Noriega. Noriega was captured and brought to the U.S. for trial. Civilian government was restored. Often cited as the only example where foreign-imposed change led to a functioning democracy longer term. The debate. There's debate there, but that would be the only one where it just completely didn't fail fucking miserably. Venezuela, currently. January, U.S. Special Forces captured President Maduro following airstrikes and deployed forces in Caracas. Operation Absolute Resolve. What a stupid fucking name. Maduro was flown to the U.S. to face charges. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez claimed interim leadership. Future political instability remains unclear. Global and regional controversies over legality and sovereignty. Cool. The gifting thing is not, I don't know what's happened. Whatever. There's a few more. Indonesia. 1965, CIA-supported coup. Sukarno was ousted. Suharto's authoritarian regime. You see, is there a theme here? Do you sense a theme? Every time we do this, authoritarians move in. It gets destabilized. Every single time we do this, again, with the marginal exception of Panama. Congo, 1960. CIA supports the overthrow of Lumumba. Long period of dictatorship and instability. Vietnam and Laos, 1950s and 1970s. CIA war support, covert operations. Pro-U.S. regimes eventually fell. Long conflict, as we know. And then Iraq, 2003. WMDs, we know what happened there. Iraq's invade, we destabilize. We destabilize Iraq. We destabilize Iran. We destabilize Libya. Who moves in? The caliphate. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, etc., etc., etc. Have we ever learned our lessons? No, we have not. I found this from the Cato Institute, which is right-leaning. Studies and analysis find that U.S. regime change efforts often have complex, unexpected, and usually adverse outcomes. Increased instability or civil conflict rather than a stable democracy, empowerment of authoritarian actions or militaries, and then long-term resentment and backlash against U.S. influence. Overt military interventions, including Panama and Venezuela, directly remove leaders but have mixed legacies. Covert operations, including the CIA, often culminate in long authoritarian rule, civil conflict, or resentment. So what do we do? What is next? The lesson has not been learned. Don't forget, we know that there was lies connected to WMD, right? We know that. We know that. We also know that companies like Halliburton and the military industrial complex enrich themselves significantly. We know that happened. We know it's going to happen again. More of the same lies. And because Mike Johnson, my little bitch boy, is such a feckless fucking coward, he has basically just given up control of Congress. He has just decided that, you know what, Congress does not have a place. I will just get on my fucking knees and suck the D of the fucking orange guy. Because we don't give a shit about Congress anymore. Mike Johnson, who was known prior to his feckless run as the speaker, was somebody who was pro-Constitution, who believed in Article 1 powers. Yeah, that guy. Too afraid to stand up. 51 Republicans in November voted against congressional oversight, meaning that Congress would have to approve any military strikes in Venezuela. 51 Republicans voted against it. But nothing to see here. Again, Guatemala 1954, Cuba 1961, Chile 1973. There's a pattern in Latin America and other parts of the world. I'll remind you of a couple of things. When Germany invaded Poland, they did it for many reasons, but principally it's so that they could build their camps in Poland, because the camps weren't in Germany. They were in Poland. And don't forget, we've already used Venezuela and other third-party countries to send our undesirables, as they say. So once again, here we are with historical corollaries, right? We know that our administration, especially with Stephen Miller in charge, doesn't give a fuck about Venezuelans. Doesn't give a fuck about them. Removing their temporary protected status, lies about Venezuelans in Colorado. We certainly know that he doesn't give a shit. And we've also know that they're fine sending even American citizens in some cases to CCOT, to Costa Rica, to other countries in Central America, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. El Salvador, not Costa Rica, El Salvador, right? And then in Venezuela as well. So now are we just going to is the for-profit prison industry going to continue to expand? Don't forget, in the first Trump administration, we destabilized the Venezuelan oil industry to the tune of billions of dollars. It crippled their economy. That happened the first time. And the administration is whom granted temporary protected status to hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans. And now we've revoked it? You see what I mean? If you're willing to do the work and you're willing to look past the bullshit, this is what you see. This is what happens. Yeah, we're on YouTube. Are we not on YouTube? Is there something wrong with the tube? Maybe. That's funny. Okay, I will, Sam. Thank you for that reminder. You have to remind me later. Okay. For those of you who are on YouTube, if you guys, by the way, if you've not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel or to Twitch, could you please do that today? I would appreciate that. Thank you all very much. I should say YT. I don't want to get in trouble. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about, I think this is an interesting sort of comparison because it's called the Pentagon Papers. And I think the reason I want to get into it because I'm trying to remind people or inform people as to what can happen if we are not paying attention. So the Pentagon Papers were a classified U.S. Department of Defense study detailing American political and military involvement in the Vietnam War from 1945 to 1967. Don't forget, we talked about this before, about coups in Laos and Cambodia that led to the rise of certain, anti-American sentiment in that particular region. Many people point to these coups, these failed regime changes to the Vietnam War. There's lines that you can track, okay? It was commissioned under President Johnson. The study was leaked in 1971 by defense analyst Daniel Ellsberg. This is what the systematic deception is how it's described. Successive U.S. administrations under Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson misled Congress and the American public about the scope, intentions, and progress of the war. Public optimism sharply contradicted private assessment that the war was likely unwinnable. The papers documented covert actions not publicly disclosed, including the bombing campaigns in Laos and Cambodia, again, CIA-led, intention to change regime, expanded troop deployments beyond what officials had admitted, provocations designed to justify deeper involvement, notably related to the Gulf of Tonkin. Internal Pentagon analysis repeatedly concluded that South Vietnam's government lacked legitimacy and popular support, military escalation would not achieve decisive victory, and the war was continued largely to avoid political embarrassment, not because success was expected. Decisions were driven by Cold War credibility fears, the domino theory, and domestic political risk, rather than clear national security necessity. The expansion of communism, right? Sound familiar? Tom Cotton just talking about Maduro as if he's a communist, wanting to go after Cuba. Sound familiar? Should. When the New York Times and later the Washington Post published excerpts of the Pentagon Papers, the Nixon administration sought to block publication. Really? A Republican president who's got all yeah, we are all the I know my mods are the best. You mean a corrupt administration wanted to limit the press's access to what they were doing? No. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the press, affirming First Amendment protections against prior restraint. What happened to that Supreme Court? Interesting. The Pentagon Papers accelerated public opposition to the Vietnam War, deepened distrust of government that persists today, set a major legal precedent for whistleblowers and investigative journalism, and directly influenced later transparency debates, Watergate, Iraq War intelligence, Edward Snowden, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Bottom line, Pentagon Papers showed that the Vietnam War was prolonged despite leaders privately believing it could not be won, making one of the most consequential revelations of government dishonesty in U.S. history. How does it compare to Iraq? Or anything, or any military action, police action, but not war, right? Yeah. The Pentagon Papers revealed by the Pentagon Papers from Vietnam showed officials privately knew the Vietnam War was unlikely to be won. Public statements were knowingly false or misleading. Iraq in 2003 centered on WMDs, the entire region, the instability in the Middle East. You can point a direct fucking finger at American interventionism. You want to debate that? Is it even debatable? We've destabilized all these countries. And again, with the exception of Panama, and even that is a stretch. Has it ever worked? Did it work in Libya? Nope. Did it work in Iran? Nope. Did it work in Iraq? Nope. Did it work in Afghanistan? Nope. Has it worked anywhere? Do you think it's going to work in Venezuela? Did it work in Chile? Did it work in Guatemala? Did it work in Southeast Asia? Nope. It's never fucking worked. It's never worked, especially since the administration is fucking lying to us. Flat out. Absolutely fucking lying. The role of the press and the law as it relates to the Pentagon Papers and to Iraq. The New York Times and the Washington Post published excerpts. Nixon administration tried to stop publication, and the Supreme Court ruled for the press, strengthening First Amendment protections. The Iraq War. Major outlets initially amplified the official claims. The press was all about WMDs. That's all we heard about. WMDs, 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 because they accepted the questionable intelligence from our own government. Skepticism was limited and often marginalized pre-war. Post-war journalism became corrective rather than preventative. Don't forget, that was a galvanizing moment. Post 9/11, the overwhelming majority of Americans believed it. Yellow cake uranium. Believed it. Overwhelming majority of Americans believed that we are justified to go in there because we were told there were WMDs, and there weren't. We are now being told that this guy is a drug kingpin and who is primarily responsible for poisoning the streets. WMDs, the F drug, C, M, etc. Okay. Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
I just wanted to quickly reiterate that they used the domino lie effect to get us into the war in Iraq too. They told everyone that if those communities fell, that they would all fall and we would be in trouble. So they reused the same lie we did not learn our lesson from after the Vietnam War to get us into another war of choice like that. And let's not forget that they outed Valerie Plame, a CIA knock, to cover for their uranium lie. They outed a CIA knock and an entire business of CIA coverage on accident in order to besmirch and make this lie true. I mean, no one talks about that anymore, but you know, if you were around back then, you remember lots of discussions about this. It was crazy, Bill, and it was a Vietnam all over again, and they're going to do it to us again, y'all. We got to learn our lessons. Learn our lessons.
Thank you, Joe Best. I appreciate you. See you later. That was quick. No notes. And don't forget, within a few weeks of the president taking office, they fired top-ranking JAG officials in the Pentagon. They also fired inspectors general, the watchdog groups that would be providing oversight for said military actions. Right? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You see, this is what I'm talking about. You see what I mean? This is how pathetically desperate the friends on the right are. This is all you've got. And the thing about creators like this, I won't even call this person a creator, just a troll. You think it's a flex. You think it's a flex. It doesn't matter that everybody, including myself, have said that Nicolas Maduro is a piece of shit. That's not what this argument's about. This argument and this debate is about the hypocrisy and how gullible you simps are. That you believed it, that you voted for Trump because of no new wars, and now we're just invading and kidnapping presidents of other countries. But you don't want us to be in these wars, but yet you do. You don't want us involved in authoritarianism until we are. You don't want us to be sticking our noses in where they don't belong until we do. And then you all get your semi-turgid micro dicks all up in a fuss because you're bloodthirsty. Pentagon papers regarding accountability. No major officials prosecuted for lying. Ellsberg was charged, case collapsed due to government misconduct, and that contributed to post-Vietnam reforms, war powers resolutions, for example, and the oversight norms. Iraq, no senior officials held legally accountable. Intelligence failures were acknowledged, but responsibility was diffused. Some officials continued or advanced their careers. Of course they did. Key difference, both lacked accountability, but Iraq normalized the absence of consequences. No consequences. None. How many thousands of Americans lost their lives? How many are still suffering today from PTSD that are disabled vets based on a fucking lie? Military-industrial complex and those connected to it enrich themselves to billions of dollars. Legacy of what? Destabilization of an entire region that led to what? The rise of ISIS, the rise of Al-Qaeda, etc. Do you get it? Do you understand? Do you understand that we're doing the same thing all over again? Where have you all been? So this is why people on the left are smarter. Are you unaware of any of this shit? I've been aware of this stuff forever. Did you forget about the lies regarding WMDs? Did you forget about that? Did you forget about the same economic policies through the Bush administration that Trump's using now? Tax cuts for the rich to support the military-industrial complex? Prop up oil companies? Oil from the Middle East? Oil from Venezuela? Military-industrial complex investments? It's the fucking same script. Just insert a different country. It's the exact same thing over and over and over again. You're right, Blue. It's because we read. Exactly. Here we are again, doing the exact same thing. Again, nothing to see. Institutional lessons, or lack thereof, from the Vietnam era generated deep public skepticism about a credibility gap, but again, no accountability, and then led to stronger congressional oversight and whistleblower protections. War powers resolutions, for example. Patriot Act came out of 2001. Post-Iraq era, similar skepticism, but less reform. Intelligence and media safeguards improved on paper, uneven in practice, and then public trust suffered further erosion. We've got comparisons. We've got comparisons to other coups. We've got comparisons to other regime changes authored by the United States. Imperialism, expansionism, interventionism, etc. It's never fucking worked. It's never worked. Here we are again, doing the exact same thing. And now people on the right will just say, oh, it's not war. It's not war. It's not war. It's not a war. Okay. It's not a war. it's just embarrassing. Like it's humiliating. This one line from this statement that I want to read again from the article I read earlier that's on Substack. The author is Judith Dayal. She writes, patriotism isn't blind loyalty or loud slogans. Real patriotism requires honesty, especially when that honesty is uncomfortable. It means being willing to examine what your country is doing and tell the truth about it, even when that truth cuts against the story people want to believe. What so many are calling patriotism right now is really just obedience, dressed up in a flag, a refusal to question power as long as it feels good. But loving a country has never meant surrendering your ability to think. If anything, it means demanding better from it and being honest enough to say when it has gone wrong. A nation that cannot question its own power for a decade. All you heard was no new wars. No more regime change from his own mouth. No more interventionism. That's it. It became a populist message. It was effective. It helped him win the presidency twice. And here we are, doing it all over again. And who benefits? MAGA, you don't give a flying fuck about the Venezuelan citizens. You don't fucking care about any of them. And don't even think for a second that you're gonna convince anybody that you do. You don't fucking care. You don't give a shit. Because if you saw a plane load of Venezuelan nationals in the country illegally with their hands bound behind their back and ankle shackles being walked onto a military plane flown out of the country, you're off in the corner fucking spanking it. And now suddenly you expect people to think that you care? You care about the Venezuelan citizens? You don't give a fuck. You don't give a shit about any of them. You don't care about any of it. You don't care about any of it. You will now, you got the news. You got the news on whatever it was, Saturday morning, that the United States military had carried out strikes in Venezuela. And you got all fucking up in your shit. You were so fucking happy. I saw some of the lives, some of the most despicable people that we know in this space celebrating this shit. Celebrating it. We see you. We see you. Exactly. You're right, Josie. If you cared about them, you'd be standing up for them here. You'd be criticizing the administration for illegally detaining people. Why are we taking away temporary protected status? Why? Why are we doing that? I thought you cared about the Venezuelan citizens. Apparently not. Wall Street, already sending people down there. Already having plans, knowing this was coming. Already planning on doing it. Already thinking about how they're going to line their pockets. Stock prices for oil companies already up as of today. You're right. We care about Russia, Iranian, and Chinese influence in our hemisphere? No, you don't. No, you don't. You can keep telling yourself that. You don't care about that at all. You don't. If you truly cared about that, then you would want to support our allies in the Western Hemisphere. You wouldn't want to cut USAID. You wouldn't want to be destabilizing another country. You would want to invest in our allies in the Western Hemisphere. You don't care about China, Russia, and Iran. You don't give a flying fuck about it. Because if you were smart enough, you would address what I just said. If you cared about Russia, China, and Iranian intervention, then you would be supporting allies. Oh, I don't know, like Ukraine, making sure that Taiwan had everything that they needed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Propping up, helping countries that are destabilized, addressing root cause of immigration by investing in Central America and investing in South America. But nope. You don't want to do that. Instead, you want to cut funding. You want to leave them on their own. And guess what? Who moves in? Who moves in? Iran, China, and Russia. You did this. You don't give a fuck. All right, fine. Keep telling yourself that. All right. I want to shift gears a little bit because we are not going to stop covering the Jeffrey files. Because today there's a deadline, by the way, that the Department of Justice missed. Shocker. If you go to the Epstein Transparency Act, as we know, 30 days from when the law was signed into effect, that the materials were to be released. That deadline was December the 19th. The bottom of the Epstein, at the bottom of the Epstein Transparency Act, Section 3, Section 3 of the Epstein Transparency Act, which is now a law. Section 3 is titled Report to Congress. Within 15 days of completion of that requires you to do something, like you shall not break the law. You shall not support a predator. Well, that's a different conversation. The Attorney General shall submit to the House and Senate committees on the judiciary a report listing 1, all categories of records released and withheld, 2, a summary of redactions made, including legal basis, and 3, a list of all government officials and politically exposed persons named or referenced in the released materials with no redactions permitted under subsection B/1. So that's 2 deadlines missed. So Pam Bondi has broken 2 federal laws in the span of 16 days. 2 of them. Everything needs to be released by the 30th, or within 30 days, which was December the 19th. And now the items that were redacted, there needs to be some explaining. Where is it? Where is it? Where are the explanations? Because we know from additional reporting that the Department of Justice, this is from December 31st, so this is just from last week, the DOJ seeks to enlist 400 attorneys to review more than 5 million pages of Jeffrey records. Again, nothing to see here, though, right? Nothing to see. Nothing to see here. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Minnie. You knew where I was going with that. Lucy, you've got some explaining to do. We're going to get into, I'm going to do my best today, guys, to not get into too much of the, I don't want to re-traumatize anyone. It's hard to cover the story without getting into some things. I'll do my best to navigate around it. But I want to talk about a lawsuit that was released in the Epstein files with those claims connecting Michigan's summer camp. We talked about that story, about how there's a story about how a young girl was raped and apparently, allegedly, you know the story. So I'm going to play some sound from Megyn Kelly. And this is quite disturbing, but I think it speaks to the lengths to which people will go to try to defend this, because Megyn Kelly has built her entire career on anti-wokeness, on her support of Trump. So I'm going to play this for you, and I'll take a quick break, and I'll be right back.
Is most of the allegations against him are much more complicated than the mainstream media would have you believe. And I don't think Donald Trump is a rapist or a sexual assaulter. I do think he's taken inappropriate liberties with women and gotten handsy with them in a way he's owned himself. Okay? Years ago when he was a celebrity, and it is what it is. That's the past. But it's just about so much more than that. We are talking about how many people dying at the southern border because of the invasion that we've suffered under Joe Biden. We're talking about Laken Riley, whose killer was let in under Biden. We put him on a taxpayer flight down to Georgia where he murdered her. I don't give a shit about Trump getting handsy with somebody 20 years ago. I want someone who will close the border, which he has. I want someone who will keep boys out of my daughter's sports, which he has. I want someone who will stand up to the insane DEI policies so that white kids will stop hearing in school that they're born with some original sin from which they cannot recover, which he has.
You heard it, right? It's Megyn Kelly. He can get a little handsy saying she doesn't give a shit as long as he crushes woke things. It's nice, right? It's Megyn Kelly. Nice. Nice. The original sin. She makes millions from spreading this. She has a daughter. I don't care. I'm sorry, I'm just going to play one part again.
My own personal opinion is most of the allegations against him are much more complicated than the mainstream media would have you believe. And I don't think Donald Trump is a rapist or a sexual assaulter. I do think he's taken inappropriate liberties with women and gotten handsy with them in a way he's owned himself. Okay? Years ago when he was a celebrity, and it is what it is. That's the past. But it's just about so much more than that. We are talking about how many people dying at the southern border because of the invasion that we've suffered under Joe Biden. We're talking about Laken Riley, whose killer was let in under Biden. We put him on a taxpayer flight down to Georgia where he murdered her. I don't give a shit about Trump getting handsy with somebody 20 years ago.
Okay. 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 Megyn Kelly wears her cross when she does her shows. Megyn Kelly was the same person who, after Charlie was assassinated, she went to a Turning Point event and basically was confronted with the amount of violence on the right. And then in a famous statement, she said, well, if you remove the crazies, then the left has more violence. Okay. That's fine. Nothing to see here. All right, I'm going to read a story from, this is reported by The Nation. And I think we're going to talk about Elon in just a little bit too, because Grok was a bad boy over the weekend, in case you hadn't heard, but it's a shocker that these things continue to happen. Mar-a-Lago was a key to the entire criminal enterprise. And it absolutely was, right? It absolutely was. On Christmas Day, the president delivered the most bizarre Yuletide message ever offered by a U.S. president, complaining that he's being unfairly linked to the late trafficker Jeffrey. Trump posted a long rant on Truth Social that began, "Merry Christmas to all, including the many sleazebags who love Jeffrey." Trump went on to lament how he is being blamed for his ties with Jeffrey, protesting that he was actually the one who did drop Jeffrey, and long before it became fashionable to do so. Trump's claims to have dropped Jeffrey is partly true, but obscures a crucial fact: that he and Epstein were close friends from the 80s until their breakup at some point in 2003. Jeffrey had been barred from the spa at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in 2003, and the two men seemed to have a more definitive break in 2004. The exact circumstances of the break remain mysterious, since Trump has offered numerous conflicting accounts, sometimes claiming that he was mad that Epstein stole an employee, sometimes claiming it was sometimes referring to competition the two men had over real estate, etc., 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 etc. The nature of his relationship with Donald has been clarified by a damning report published by the Wall Street Journal. The report makes clear Mar-a-Lago was crucial to his entire Epstein's predation, a fact that was well known by Trump's inner circle long before Epstein was charged with any crime. One reasonable inference from the report is that Jeffrey was protected by a system of plausible deniability at Mar-a-Lago that allowed him to use the resort to harvest his victims. Trump initiated a break with Epstein only once a formal complaint by a Mar-a-Lago employee made it impossible to maintain plausible deniability. A system built by people who look like me, to benefit people who look like me, to protect people who look like me. According to the Wall Street Journal, Jeffrey wasn't just a frequent visitor to Trump's Mar-a-Lago club in the late 90s and early 2000s. The club was also sending spa employees, usually girls, to Jeffrey's nearby mansion for massages, manicures, and other spa services, according to former Mar-a-Lago and Epstein employees. The house calls went on for years, even as spa employees warned each other about what was happening, about Epstein specifically, who was known among his staff for being not only sexually suggestive, but also exposed himself during these appointments, according to former Mar-a-Lago employees. The spa occasionally provided house calls for members Jeffrey wasn't a dues-paying member of the club, but Trump told staff to treat him like one, the employees said. Jeffrey had an account at the spa where his companion, Ghislaine Maxwell, booked appointments on his behalf. Based on this report, the question becomes, what did Trump know about his Epstein's predations, and when did he know it? Trump was married to Marla Maples from 1993 to 1999. Maples, according to the Journal, in the mid-1990s, warned her husband and others there was something off about Epstein. In 2000, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's most important accomplice, recruited Mar-a-Lago employer Virginia Giuffre to work with Jeffrey. Giuffre was raped by him numerous times, and he also sexually trafficked her to his friends. Trigger warnings. My apologies. In 2002, Trump told New York Magazine, quote, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." In January of the following year, Trump sent a birthday card to Epstein full of innuendo. A crisis in the Jeffrey-Trump relationship started soon after, as the Journal details the Mar-a-Lago arrangement ended, quote, after an 18-year-old beautician returned to the club from a house call to Jeffrey's and reported to managers that he had pressured her for schmecks, former employees said. The Journal reported that former employees said a manager then faxed Trump the allegations and urged him to ban Jeffrey, which Trump did. Just from that alone tells you that he obviously knew what was going on and continued to do it. While Trump and his supporters will claim that the fact that Trump barred Epstein from Mar-a-Lago in 2003, which they will claim will exonerate the president, the facts of the case make Trump's culpability much more evident. Trump had every reason to know before 2003 that Jeffrey was sexually mistreating Mar-a-Lago employees, some of whom were under the age of consent. The 2003 letter from the beautician created a problem for Trump. He no longer had plausible deniability about Epstein's misconduct. There was now a paper trail, one that could be used against Trump. His break with Jeffrey was entirely opportunistic. Trump may not be criminally culpable in the situation. It would certainly be difficult to prove he's guilty of a crime beyond a reasonable doubt, but in judging politicians, criminal guilt is not only standard to use. On any reasonable moral ground, Trump's behavior was atrocious. Mar-a-Lago was key to Jeffrey's criminal enterprise. Trump's critics should not hesitate to hammer this fact home. Do you want to draw your own conclusions? Everything we see, every single day, we get more and more evidence. I am very comfortable claiming that Donald Trump is a fucking predator. I have no problem saying that whatsoever. No fucking problem. I have enough information. More than enough. Just based on the lies alone. And again, I say this, and this is the part that I don't know if it gets discussed enough. The lengths to which people are going to protect the men who committed these crimes allegedly against young women and girls, children. The lengths to which people are going. Think about it. Don't forget, MTG comes out in that interview that came out last week. She said that in her conversations with Trump, trying to repair the relationship, Trump told her that my friends are going to get hurt. My friends are going to get hurt. Again, my friends are going to get hurt. Of course, he would never say anything about himself. Somebody else will take the fall, right? Okay. Nothing to see here, though, right? Nothing to see here. This story about 400 attorneys. The DOJ seeks to enlist 400 attorneys to review more than 5 million pages. The Department of Justice is asking for help reviewing 5.2 million pages of unreviewed documents related to convicted offender Jeffrey, seeking to enlist 400 lawyers from its criminal and national security divisions, along with U.S. attorneys' offices in Florida and New York, according to people familiar with the matter. Lawyers who are in the process of processing criminal and national security divisions. So they come from the criminal wing and the national security wing, And now we have to pull them from that job because what? Because we've been covering this up for a year now? As Deputy AG Todd Blanche told ABC News Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas in an interview earlier this month, the DOJ had nearly 200 lawyers working to review the files. But in recent days, department leadership has made clear to the workforce that they need more help. New York Times was first to report on this development. The review of the documents is expected to take much of January, the sources said. There's a little problem with that. It's called federal law. And don't forget, we are facing another government shutdown at the end of January. So I will remind people once again that Pam Bondi and the Trump administration is in violation of federal law. Not that they fucking care, but they are. 2 separate occasions now. December 19th, all the documents were supposed to be released. 15 days after that, which I think was Saturday or yesterday, any and all explanations as to why anything was redacted. And again, the summary of that section is this. Within 15 days of completion of the release required under Section 2, again, the release of all the information, the AG shall submit to the House and to the Senate committees on the judiciary a report listing 1, all categories of records released and withheld. So now apparently there's 5.2 million more. Okay. A summary of redactions made, including the legal basis. So those big blocks of text that were blocked out or information that had the president's name initially, and then it was leaked, and then it came out, and then the DOJ pulled it from their website, and then put it back with redactions, all that kind of shit. Here's the thing. These are the permitted withholdings. The AG may withhold or redact the segregable portions of records that contain, is that the section I want to read? Yes, this is permitted. This is the prohibited grounds for withholding. These are the things that they cannot withhold based on the law. No record shall be withheld, delayed, or redacted on the basis of any of the following. 1, embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, including 2, any government official, public figure, or foreign dignitary. Period. Full stop. So if any of those persons' names have been redacted, Part 2 of the law says, all categories of records released and withheld, a summary of redactions made, including the legal basis, and a list of all government officials and politically exposed persons named or referenced in the redacted materials with no redactions permitted under subsection B. So they have violated the law on 2 separate occasions. MAGA, y'all okay with that? You fucking cowards don't give a shit. You don't fucking care. Why am I even asking that question? You don't care about lawlessness. You don't care about fraud. You don't care about corruption. You don't care about any of it. You just want to protect the cult. Because when you're in the cult, the biggest threat to the cult are people within the cult. And you're in it. You're in it fucking deep. Deep. And I'm going to do my best to try to navigate through this one because there's some, I'm going to do my best to not read any graphic references, but I think it's really, really necessary. I'm not going to let this story die because part of this focus, part of what the administration wants is they don't want people talking about anything other than Venezuela, right? They've got enough to explain in regards to Venezuela, but they want people's eyes diverted. We're not. Have you noticed that none of them are talking about the fraud in Minnesota anymore? Kind of funny. They don't want to talk about the fraud in Mississippi that involved Medicaid, Medicare fraud that actually made its way to the Mississippi government, billions of dollars. They don't want to talk about any of that. They don't want to talk about any fraud across the country. Fraud is fraud. They don't want to talk about anything other than what supports them. They don't want to talk about any of that. Any of it. The incident that prompted Trump to ban Jeffrey from the Mar-a-Lago spa. Jeffrey wasn't just a frequent visitor to Trump's Mar-a-Lago club in the late 1990s and early 2000s. The club was also sending spa employees, usually girls, children, to his nearby mansion for massages, manicures, and other spa services, according to former employees. The house calls went on for years, even as spa employees warned each other about Jeffrey. So this went on for years. Mar-a-Lago was owned by Donald Trump. Spa employees at Mar-a-Lago were taken to or sent to Jeffrey's place for years. Just so we're clear about that. The spa occasionally provided house calls for members. Jeffrey wasn't a dues-paying member of the club, but Trump told staff to treat him like one. The employees said Jeffrey had an account at the spa where his companion Ghislaine booked appointments on his behalf. They came to a halt in 2003 allegedly after an 18-year-old beautician returned to the club from a house call to Jeffrey and reported to managers that he had pressured her for schmecks, former employees said. A manager sent Trump a fax relaying the employee's allegations and urged him to ban Jeffrey. Some of the former employees said Trump told the manager it was a good letter and said to kick him out, even though he wasn't a paying member. So he got free access to the facility? Okay. The beautician disclosed the house call to the club's human resources team. One of the former employees said the incident wasn't reported to Palm Beach police, according to the former employees and the police department. The department didn't begin investigating Epstein until 2 years later, when a parent told them that he had molested a 14-year-old girl from a local high school. Jeffrey was arrested in 2006 after several underage teens told police he paid them. So this was going on at the same time Mar-a-Lago was being used for a recruitment center. But again, nothing to say here. Megyn Kelly didn't care that he got a little handsy. Nobody seems to care. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the journal was, quote, writing up fallacies and innuendo in order to smear the president. Quote, no matter how many times this story is told and retold, the truth remains. Trump did nothing wrong. This is according to her. Trump did nothing wrong, and he kicked Jeffrey out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. That story has changed so many times. That story has changed so many times. Initially, the story was that Trump kicked him out because of a real estate deal. Then it was because he was stealing employees. No context to that. And then Caroline Leavitt says it was because he was being a creep. A creep? A creep? The beautician's allegations and the Mar-a-Lago Spa's practice of dispatching workers to Jeffrey's home have not been previously reported. This came out in the files. Employees sent on house calls, like the 18-year-old beautician, were typically licensed by the state boards of cosmetology or massage therapy. The allegations came 3 years after Maxwell recruited another employee, Virginia Dufresne, who said she was 16 when she left the spa to work for Jeffrey. Dufresne took her own life, as you know, earlier this year. The journal identified 4 other Mar-a-Lago employees who were listed in Jeffrey's address book, which was obtained by the FBI in 2009. By the time Jeffrey was banned from the spa in 2003, disquiet over his presence at the club had been bubbling for years, including from Trump's second wife, Marla Maples, who, in the mid-90s, warned her husband and others there was something off about Jeffrey, according to former employees. The relationship between Jeffrey and Trump, spanning from the 1980s to the early 2000s, has been the focus of intense scrutiny. The Justice Department, in response to a law passed by Congress in November, has recently began releasing documents from its files on Jeffrey, some of which reference Trump. Being mentioned in the files isn't an indictment of wrongdoing. Trump has said he cut ties with Jeffrey before his 2006 arrest. But we have flight records. Trump and Jeffrey continued to cross paths after the spa banned Jeffrey and Maxwell in 2003. They were in fierce competition for a Palm Beach property up for grabs in bankruptcy in late 2004. And Jeffrey's message book showed the 2 calls from Trump the month of the auction, which Trump won. In 2008, Jeffrey reached a controversial deal with federal prosecutors in which he pled guilty to solicitation of prostitution and procuring a minor to engage in prostitution. He was arrested a second time on federal trafficking charges in 2019 and apparently took his own life in jail. Trump has given a variety of answers when and why he cut Epstein from Mar-a-Lago and then ended their friendship. Quote, I had a falling out with him. I haven't spoken to him for 15 years, Trump said in his after Epstein's 2019 arrest. That's not true. When asked this summer why he stopped socializing, Trump said it was because Epstein lured some of his staff away, because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again, and I threw him out of the place persona non grata. Trump in a social media post on Christmas Day said he was the only one who did drop Jeffrey long before it became fashionable to do so. The White House, meanwhile, has said that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep to his female employees, including Dufresne, the 16-year-old who was hired to work at the spa. What do you want to believe? Which lie should we believe? Because there is some truth in there somewhere, right? So was it that he stole employees? Was it that he was a creep? Or was it that because of a real estate deal? Which story? Which one? Which is the reason that he allegedly ended the relationship? And he said they hadn't spoken for 15 years. We know that's not true because of some of the flight records. We know that's not true because of some of the email chain that were uncovered at the Epstein files release. We know that that's not true because of the birthday book. All this shit. We know it's all a fucking lie. All of it. All of it. But MAGA doesn't care because they don't care if the president gets handsy. They don't give a shit. Exactly, Francis. Why are 16-year-old girls working at a spa? Why? Why did they obviously know this was happening for years? And finally somebody spoke up? Really? Okay. Into the early 2000s, Trump continued to associate with Jeffrey, saying in a New York Magazine profile in 2002 that he was a lot of fun and likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. A letter bearing Trump's signature and a drawing of a naked woman was part of a book celebrating Jeffrey's 50th birthday in January of 2003. Trump sued the Wall Street Journal in July over its article about the letter, calling it non-existent and alleging defamation. Congress has since obtained the letter from the estate and publicly released it. The Journal has moved to dismiss the lawsuit. Why isn't Trump pursuing that more? Why? Why hasn't he pursued it more? Why isn't he talking about this every single day? Excuse me. You think maybe he's afraid of discovery? MAGA, he told you the letter was fake, that it was a lie. So when it came out that it was in there, you notice that he's been very quiet about that? Why would that be? Claiming that he never drew pictures when he did for charity? Claiming that that wasn't his signature when it was? Maxwell regularly visited the Mar-a-Lago spa where she booked Epstein's in-home appointments and charged services for herself to the account in Jeffrey's name. The spa made house calls for some members but preferred that they come in for services, former employees said. Maxwell also used the spa to recruit young spa workers for side jobs, which weren't authorized by the club. She said they could make some extra cash by giving massages to her friend, former employees said. Maxwell went to other spas in Palm Beach in search of massage therapists for Jeffrey, according to a 2009 deposition by Epstein's former house manager, who said he drove her as she made her rounds. Maxwell was convicted in 2021 for her role and is currently serving a 20-year prison in fucking Club Fed. Maples, who married Trump in 1993, widely shared concerns with Mar-a-Lago staff about Epstein soon after the club opened in 1995, according to former employees. She was vague about her reasons for disliking him. She told employees that something about Epstein was wrong and off, and she worried about his influence on Trump. The comments were out of character for Maples, who rarely spoke ill of anyone to staff, the former employees said. Some former club employees said that Maples communicated her concerns to Timothy McDaniel, who worked as a bodyguard for the Trump family and oversaw security at their Florida properties. McDaniel didn't respond to the request for comment. Maples told Trump that she was uneasy about Jeffrey's presence and that she didn't want to spend time with him and didn't want Trump to either, according to former employees and people close to Maples. But Epstein continued to attend parties and events at Mar-a-Lago. Reps for Maples didn't respond to requests for comment. Trump and Jeffrey had known each other since the 80s and once made a bet over whether Maples was pregnant. According to a story Epstein retold in emails in 2015 and 2016 that were recently made public by Congress. As payment for losing, Maples gave birth to a daughter, Tiffany, in October 1993. Epstein wrote that he sent Trump a truckload of baby food worth $10,000. Trump's friendship with Epstein outlived his second marriage. He and Maples announced their separation in 1997 and finalized their divorce in 1999. By then, Jeffrey had developed a reputation among spa staff for being inappropriate on house calls, former employees said. A massage therapist who worked at Mar-a-Lago in the late 1990s and early 2000s recalled asking managers why Jeffrey couldn't come to the spa as they talked about sending someone 2 miles away to his house. The bosses told her that Jeffrey preferred spa services in the privacy of his own home and warned the employee that Epstein sometimes exposed himself during massages. But yet they continued to send girls there. The hub was Mar-a-Lago. That was the hub. That was the recruiting ground. In 2000, Maxwell offered Dufresne, then an attendant in the spa, work as a massage therapist for Jeffrey. On her first visit to the mansion, Dufresne said that Maxwell brought her into a room where Maxwell disrobed her and Epstein raped her. Over the next 2 years, Dufresne alleged Jeffrey abused her and trafficked her to other powerful men. Trump was asked by a reporter this year whether Dufresne was one of the employees that Epstein had poached. I think that was one of the employees. Yeah, he stole her. Yeah. Maxwell continued to scout for women in the spa, girls in the spa in the early 2000s, handing out a phone number to young staff. Former employees said she told them to call if they or their friends wanted to make some extra cash. Yep. We have an entire administration and hundreds, if not thousands of people that are working to protect people who committed these crimes against young women and girls, children. And MAGA doesn't care. And tens of thousands of people in our country, millions of people, don't care. When asked, what more evidence do you need? And many of them say, well, video. Video? You need video? You don't believe science. You don't believe intellectuals. You don't believe the courts. You don't believe witness testimony. Numerous examples of witness testimony. You don't believe evidence that contradicts claims that have been made. You don't believe the voices of survivors. You don't believe the lawyers. You don't believe the courts. You don't believe investigative journalists. You don't believe credible institutions. You don't believe any of that. But you believe Nick Shirley. Yeah. If a video did come out, you'd say it was AI. I don't even know what to say anymore. I don't even know what to say about it. It's hard to cover the story. I have to say. We will. We'll figure it out. It's hard to cover it because, you know, it's... I don't want to traumatize people. I'm trying really hard not to do it. But we have to make sure that this does not get tucked aside and stuffed in a drawer somewhere. And it's got to be discussed. I want people to understand that in 10 years' time, 5 years' time, whatever it might be, 10 years' time, people who've been associated and or supportive of this Trump administration and this particular era of domestic politics will do everything they can to disassociate. They don't want to be connected to this. Some might, some don't care. It's easy, though, for them to say it now because there are safe spaces that exist with a bunch of grape apologists. There are safe spaces that exist for people who support drug traffickers. There are spaces that exist for people who support criminality, corruption, etc. Without that cover, so when Trump is no longer in power, without that cover, you're going to run from this so fast, you're not going to want anything to do with it. But for now, you're kind of stuck. For now, you're kind of stuck. Hey, Paul.
God. I wanted to, I'm good, man. Happy New Year.
You too.
So I just want to make sure that I'm clear where we are as a country. I mean, this is how bad we are. So our president, whatever you want to call him, still hasn't accepted the results and conceded the 2020 election as we come up on the anniversary of January 6th, which led to an insurrection with 5 officers who are no longer here. Many have long-term disabilities because he lied and lied and lied. But somehow that president is liberating Venezuela because he wants them to uphold the rule of law to remove a president who wasn't legally put in there. Is that where we are as a country?
Pretty much.
Holy shit.
Yep.
But it was about the DRUGS, but yet he just pardoned the president of Honduras, who was found guilty in a court of law in the United States for bringing in tons and tons and tons and tons of illegal substances into the United States of America.
Correct, but that was about Biden.
Of course it was. How do we... There's just... I keep thinking, maybe I'm just a hopeless romantic, and I think I've realized that there's just no bottom. There isn't. There isn't. They really hate black people this much, don't they? I mean, it's that bad.
Black and
That's
brown people,
sad.
they really do.
Holy shit. Just because of how they look.
Correct.
That's just so sad.
Well, black and brown people, LGBTQIA, women, disabled people, doesn't matter. Any marginalized group, they hate a marginalized community so much that they will raw dog their support of this guy no matter what.
There was a guy that lost his sawmill after 6 generations, and he would still vote for him. I thought it was about the price of eggs.
Exactly.
I'm not a nihilist, but I'm kind of thinking the whole thing should just burn to the ground at this point because maybe you and I disagree on this. I really think this is the white people's fault just as much as everyone else because they're not willing to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's more white people's fault, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely white people's fault. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. It's our fault. People who look like you and I, Paul. It's our fault. It's white men. White men are the problem.
Do you believe, and I know this is, I always get on follows on YouTube, the No Kings protests. Now, I think it's a great idea, right? I totally do. But the reality is you got white people patting themselves on the back, protesting every 4 months like they did some special shit. They wake up on a Saturday outside of working hours, eat their Wheaties, high five, take pictures, go to Facebook, and they'll watch Netflix and do nothing for 4 months. They won't go on a general strike. They won't not spend on Black Friday. They won't post on social media. They won't talk to Uncle Bob. But at least they did a protest, and we did our very best. Am I off base?
No, I think. I mean, I don't expect a full transition of clarity overnight. But you're right. I mean, we can look at. All we have to do is look at the election results. We know that there is one demographic in our country, happens to be the biggest demographic, that is holding us back, and that would be white men and white women. To be honest, And we speak to a lot of people who realize that. Like, you're aware of your privilege. I'm aware of my privilege, but not enough people. I think more people are starting to be aware of it. The question is, what are we going to do? Why are more white men not standing up?
It seems like they just don't want to be uncomfortable.
That's part of it.
I mean, if more white people would have stood up during the civil rights movement, we probably wouldn't be in this mess as bad, because we would have. And even when Trump is gone, he's not the problem. He's a symptom of white supremacy. And I think a lot of people miss this. I think a lot of white people think that when Trump is gone, oh no, everything's going to be better. No, there were 77 million people that overlooked felonies and assault on January 6th because they didn't want to vote for the black woman. And I think a lot of people are kidding themselves, and they think that voting for a Democrat in 6 or 8 is going to just kick the can down the road. And we just seem to be unwilling to recognize the nose on our face.
Right. We have to survive to thrive. So I always talk about the Democratic Party as being, public transportation. It's going to get me a hell of a lot closer to where I want to go, and I'm willing to walk the rest of the way. That's how I feel about it.
I know. There's part of this country that we can't save, Steve. Well, they're never going to change. It sucks.
That's correct. We have to remind people, though, again, that we don't need them. We need the 90 million people that didn't vote to participate. That's what we need.
Yeah. All right, man.
Bro. I appreciate you. All right. Have a good day. See you later. Take care. All right. Bye. He's right. I mean, it wasn't. You didn't understand the assignment. Well, when you're a white supremacist, racist, and misogynist, then you're never going to understand the assignment. It wasn't really that complicated. Harm reduction. But no. Bridge too far. Couldn't do that. Couldn't just suck it up and just cast your vote for freedom for all. But nope, couldn't do that. I don't know your username. You don't have one, so I'm just going to have to kill you, sadly. Sorry about that, but yeah. Actually, I'm not sorry. Everybody keep tapping, please. Thank you for the likes so far. Let's see if we can hit 600K today. Hazy, how are you?
All right. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
So I just have a quick question, and this is completely not related to the topic you're talking about, but my daughter, as you know, she is transgender. And she came to me the other day and told me that there is an article, and I have not been able to find it since, and she had closed her browsers and that someone, the first transgender person, has been picked up by ICE in detention. And I was wondering if anybody else has heard that, because apparently it's an American citizen that is transgender that has been picked up. And she is freaking out, rightfully so, if this is accurate, but I haven't been able to confirm it. And so I wasn't sure if anybody on your team or any of the mods would be able to help confirm that.
We will look into it. That's the first I've heard of that. It doesn't surprise me, sadly, but that's the first I've heard of it. So we will look into it. Yes. Yeah,
that was the first I had heard of it. It didn't surprise me either, but I'm trying to keep her calm because unfortunately she was just in the hospital not that long ago for attempted self-unaliving because of this administration. So it is really destroying her as a child, and I don't think people realize the impact that this is going beyond what we see in the news with people being taken. So just it's hitting all communities, of course. And then, of course, we have this whole thing with Maduro. It's how many more people are we going to take, and how many more laws are we going to break? So, and thank you, everybody in the comments. I appreciate the love.
Yeah, to answer your question, as many as the American public are willing to let our elected officials get away with.
And do we think this is the setup for not only oil, but the 1940 Germany situation where it was Poland where people were sent versus the U.S.? Do we foresee that that's going to happen in Venezuela?
I had mentioned that earlier, that, the camps that the Germans built were not built in Germany. They were built in Poland. That was part of the reason why Germany invaded Poland. I would not put it past part of the plan, because we've already seen it, right? We've already seen this administration sending.
Yeah, they're sending them everywhere.
In their words, undesirable. Exactly, sending them everywhere. Yep. Yep.
So, okay. Well, that's all I had. If someone could help me, if they see something confirming that, just so I can hopefully tamp down that stress for her. Because she's dealing with enough of it with just seeing what's going on in the news. And also, I need the name of your nail color because I really like it.
I don't know where the bottle is, but sure. No problem. Okay. I'll figure that out. Thank you, Hazy.
That's all I had. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too. Thanks a lot. Again, one of the reasons we talk about history is we make these comparisons, right? I'm so sorry that's happening to you. We will do our best to try to find out more to that story. But I think we need to be able to consider. I think we need to consider everything that's happening, right? It's not just about cover up for the Epstein files. It's not just about the oil. It's not just about Wall Street putting their slimy hands in. It's not just about Western expansionism and more examples of imperialism and interventionism. It's all of it. It's all of it. It's all of it. All right, we've got a story. Hold on a second here. Okay. Again, hearts in the chat to my mods. So this is a story from November. Trump administration inadvertently deported a transgender woman to Mexico despite the judge's concern she may face torture there. The Trump administration admitted, quote, it inadvertently deported a transgender woman to Mexico in November after a judge ordered she not be removed to the country over fear she may be tortured or violently persecuted. The government has said it will allow Britannia, Hector, I saw that name come down. Thank you for that, brother. The government has said it will allow Britannia Uristegui Rios, a Mexican national, to return to the U.S. if she's able to make it to the border. Once she's returned, she'll be placed back in ICE custody while the administration tries to deport her to a different country, court documents show. The case marks the latest example of the Trump administration wrongfully removing someone protected by court orders or special status as it works to carry out the president's goal of history-making mass deportation programs. Ms. Rios is at least the fifth such case this year, including the administration's dramatic legal showdown over the removal of and eventual return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Ms. Rios' attorneys are suing the administration and demanding that she not be required to return to federal custody once she's back in the U.S. if she happens to make it to a port of entry without losing her life. Mexico is one of the deadliest countries in the world for transgender people, according to the Trans Murder Monitoring Project. Though the full scope of risk to transgender people in Mexico is unclear, journalists and advocacy groups have documented pervasive and often fatal violence. Since returning to the U.S. in 2003, Rios has racked up a lengthy criminal history that includes convictions for disorderly conduct, solicitation and DUI, according to court filings from a Department of Homeland Security official. An immigration judge ordered her deportation in March after she was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon in Vegas, but the judge simultaneously blocked the government from removing Rios to her native Mexico, finding there was a likelihood she could face torture there. Every fucking day. Every day. We just hear of more cruelty. Every day we just hear of more again, not defending the criminal record here. Not defending that at all. What we're defending is what we are doing. Hi, Michelle.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm okay. How you doing?
Just another day in America. I wanted to kind of touch back on the Epstein stuff. And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say thank you for being graceful about discussing it because of, the concern for how it's going to affect survivors. Me being one myself, I've heard a lot of other content creators discuss it, and no one does it in a way that you do, as to, take into account our experiences, and censorship is important. And like I had told you before, being a survivor myself, I'm reading her book, and as hard as it is, I feel like too many people have been silent for too long, and too many people have gotten away with too much. And as hard as it is to hear about all of this, I want every disgusting, sick motherfucker who was involved in all of this, pardon my French, to go down. I want them all taken down. I don't give a shit who was involved in it. Anyone and everyone who was involved in it, men, women, Democrat, Republican, I don't give a shit. Everyone needs to be held accountable for what they have done and what they continue to do and try to get away with. And I will suffer the gut-wrenching details if that means that more people are made aware of what has happened. And thank you again for being so gracious about how you approach it. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you saying that. It's not easy. I appreciate you saying that. It's a conscious effort we made within our team to try to be more high level, talk about the conspiracy, the cover up. It's hard to do that without providing some details, but we're going to stick to our decision. So I appreciate you saying that. Thanks, Michelle.
I appreciate it and I support it 100%. Thank you.
All right, you too. See you later. Take care. Yeah, that's our commitment. Like I said, it's not easy to do. We're not going to forget covering this story, but I'm not going to just come up here and just just to be able to report on things to make it sensationalized. That's not our goal. So if anybody feels like they ever have to step away, you're not going to offend me. Believe me, you're not. But it's a story that we are not going to let die. Too important. Somebody talked about HR 3492. I saw that comment in the chat, mods. I'm not sure what they're talking about there. Okay, that's all you find. All right. So some reporting involving Mark Kelly. Pete Hegseth has censured Senator Kelly after warning about following illegal orders. This is from this morning, just about 10 minutes ago. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said today he's announcing that he is issuing a letter of censure to Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona over the lawmaker's participation in a video that called on troops to resist unlawful orders. Here we are again. Mark Kelly, decorated war hero. Literally a decorated war hero who had his fighter jet shot at. A guy who epitomizes what you would look at and say that guy's a patriot. Fucking a NASA astronaut, multiple shuttle missions. Dude's a fucking hero. Okay? Guy's a fucking hero. And Pete Hegseth, the fucking piece of shit, pathetic womanizer fucknut. I should take this moment. To President Trump, Vice President Vance, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm Steve. Facts Still Matter. Every Monday through Friday, 8 till noon Eastern Time, right here. We stream on YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. Fuck all y'all. Have a good day. Hegseth said that the censure was a necessary process step to proceedings that could result in a demotion from Kelly's retired rank of captain in the U.S. Navy. Kelly's office had no immediate comment. The move comes more than a month after Kelly participated in a video, along with 5 other Democratic lawmakers, in which they called on troops to defy illegal orders. President Trump accused the lawmakers of sedition, punishable by death, in his social media post days later. In November, Kelly and the other lawmakers, all veterans of the armed services and intelligence community, called on U.S. military members to uphold the Constitution and defy illegal orders. The 90-second video was posted from Senator Elise Slotkin's X account. In it, the 6 lawmakers, Slotkin, Kelly, and Reps Jason Crow, Chris DeLuzio, Maggie Goodlander, and Chrissy Houlihan speak directly to U.S. service members whom Slotkin acknowledges, quote, are under enormous stress and pressure right now. Afterward, Trump accused them of sedition, punishable by death, reposting messages from others about the video and amplifying it with his own words. The Pentagon announced that it began an investigation of Kelly in late November while citing a federal law that allows retired service members to be recalled to active duty on orders of the defense secretary for possible court-martial or other measures. Kelly said the investigation was part of an effort to silence dissent within the military. Quote, this is just about sending a message to retired service members, active duty service members, government employees, etc. Do not speak out against this president or there will be consequences, Kelly told reporters in December. In his post Monday, Hegseth charged that Kelly's remarks in the video and afterward violated the Uniform Code of Military Justice provisions against conduct unbecoming an officer and violating good order and discipline. Kelly, along with some other Democrats in the initial video, have also sent out fundraising messages based off the Republican president's reaction to their comments, efforts that have gone toward filling their own campaign coffers and further elevating their national level profiles. While 6 lawmakers served in the military or in the intelligence community, Hegseth made clear in previous remarks that Kelly was the only one facing investigation because he is the only one of the lawmakers who formally retired from the military and is still under Pentagon jurisdiction. Really? Really? This is what we're doing? You know what really just grinds my gears is that the pro-military crowd in MAGA will be cheering this shit on. And you know full well, you traitorous fucks, that what Mark Kelly and the other 5 did was exactly what they were supposed to do. Exactly what they were supposed to do. They were reminding other members who've taken the same fucking oath that it is your duty, your responsibility, and it's the fucking law to disobey unlawful orders. And you fucking traitorous pieces of shit, the same group of traitorous pieces of shit, we're probably going to fucking celebrate the 5-year anniversary of J6 tomorrow, aren't you? Of course you are. Of course you are. Mark Kelly is exactly what you would picture if you wanted to draw an image in your mind of a patriotic veteran, someone who cares about his country, somebody who's a highly decorated individual for what he's done in defense of our country, a true fucking patriot. A true fucking patriot. And that's the guy that you think is a traitor. Wow. Okay. Great. Good to fucking know. I laugh so I don't fucking cry because it's just a joke. All right, I've got a few more bits of sound I'm going to play for you guys. I might have to end a little bit early today just because I've got some work I got to do, but not there just yet. Where is it? Play that one. This is Angus King. Angus King serves on the Armed Services Committee. He's an independent from Maine. Again, more on Venezuela, but I think it's part of the big picture here about how this administration is just operating with no checks and balances whatsoever, and how pitiful it actually is.
That's what bothers me, and it bothered me from the very beginning. One of the very first acts of this administration back in January, I think, or early February, was to fire all the top legal advisors in the Pentagon, the top JAG officers in the Pentagon. So that's number one, they fired them. Then they illegally fired the Inspector General, which was supposed to be run by Congress. The Inspector General is a really important office all throughout our government that's supposed to look for abuse and breaking of the law, waste of money, those kind of things. They fired that person. And then, in a little-known incident, they transferred 600 JAG officers, military lawyers, out of the Pentagon to be judges in immigration cases.
Yeah.
So essentially, they gutted the legal infrastructure within the Pentagon. And if you follow the breadcrumbs, it looks to me like they're warming up to giving some illegal orders because they've taken away the people whose job it is to tell the chain of command, I'm sorry, you can't do that.
So these senators, how many? I
think there were 6, House and Senate. The United States is exceptional in this sense that when a military person signs up, takes the oath is to the Constitution. not to the leader, not to a president, not to a political party, not to Congress. It's to the Constitution. And there's no question that all these people were saying was you can't follow illegal orders, and that's black letter law in the Uniform Code of Military Justice. In fact, I ran across over the weekend a plaque that's on the wall, a brass plaque at West Point, and the head of it, the heading is Loyalty to the Constitution. And in the language of the plaque, it says if a soldier has an order that's contrary to law, if he has an order that's contrary to the law must take precedence over the order. And based upon Nuremberg and a lot of history, saying that you were simply obeying orders is not a defense. And that's what Mark Kelly and those guys were advising these soldiers, that they better be careful, because they're not immune by simply saying, well, the general told me to do that. And that's a bedrock principle of our military and our whole legal structure.
So what this administration and now Pete Hegseth want people to believe, that they want you to believe that what Mark Kelly did, and Angus King did a really good job there pointing it out regarding the UCMJ. I was just following orders is not a defense. It's Nuremberg. It's absolutely not a defense. Somebody asked, this is just a little mock-up that we did. These are the Epstein files, and this is Maduro, and can I buy a pardon with this? Anyway, that's what they want you to believe. That what Mark Kelly and the other 5 heroic 6 did was just remind others in the military community that it is your duty to disobey an unlawful order. It is your duty to respect your oath to the Constitution. You don't take an oath to the office. You don't take an oath to the flag. You don't take an oath to the man or the woman. You don't take the oath to the SecDef. You don't take the oath to the president. You take the oath to the Constitution. And that's what he did. And he reminded them of that. That's what all of them did. And now Pete Hegseth wants to censure Mark Kelly, who could be on a fucking recruiting video for the military based on his experience. Mark Kelly is the guy that Pete Hegseth wants. Mark Kelly has that warrior ethos. Mark Kelly is a war fighter. He is the guy that Pete Hegseth talks about all the fucking time. All the time. He is the guy. That is the face of the person that Pete Kegsbreath talks about all the fucking time. And now he wants to censure him and perhaps demote him. Because why? Because he reminded other military to honor their oath? Okay. Real quick, I want to thank a couple people. Oh, my God. Hector, thank you, bro. Appreciate you. Better than crooked meat, I tell you. Thank you, Hector. Appreciate you. Bridget, also, thank you. Thank you for everything you do. You make this world tolerable. Thank you, Bridget. I appreciate you saying that. You guys are awesome. Over here on the other, A and CD, thank you so much. Saying that we are, that my mods are the best. You're absolutely fucking right. They absolutely are. For always, you wish you could say, Rainey, thank you so much. I appreciate you so very, very much. You guys are awesome. Let me adjust this. You guys are fabulous human beings. Appreciate you. I'm just trying to, this whole thing, I don't know if we've talked about this enough. I really don't know. I don't know if we talked about this enough. The United States military has always been something, as someone who's not served, I'm going to be careful how we say this, but patriotic support for the military has been something, in my opinion, that's been co-opted by the right. Like they claim they're the only ones that care about the U.S. military. Well, we know that that's not fucking true at all, because they don't give a shit. They don't care about the military. They don't care about law enforcement on the collective. The reason we can say that is because of what happened on J6 tomorrow. We know we can say that because of how they are now treating these veterans. You can't claim to be supportive of true warfighters with the warrior ethos, those that are standing there in defense of the Constitution, in support of supporting American citizens and their rights to the freedoms. And now having Pete Kegsbreath say that Mark Kelly is a seditionist traitor? Make it make sense. Make that make sense. Make it make sense that a man who had numerous missions, I forget how many sorties he had in Iraq and Afghanistan, but dozens, had his plane fucking shot at. Enemy lines, rescued people. That guy, a fucking NASA astronaut, that guy. You think that guy is a traitor? You think that guy, the face that you would put on a fucking wall in a recruiting video, you think that guy is a traitor? Do you see how pathetically fucking weak you all are? And Angus King is right. I talked about this earlier. Early days of the Trump administration, early February, firing top UCMJ brass, UCMJ lawyers, firing inspectors general. Why would you do that? Why would you not want lawyers there? Why would you not want the agencies and the agents and the positions of inspectors general's job is to, because there's inspector general all across our government in every agency, in every department. They're there to make sure that you're abiding by the rules. Oh, and by the way, the Pentagon just failed another audit last week. Shocker. Totally nothing to see here. But Mark Kelly is going to be censured? I dare any of you MAGA fucking traitors to justify that. I dare you. I dare you. I dare you to try to justify it. You'll find some way. You'll look over on X, or you'll go to True Social, or you'll go to fucking subreddit, or you'll go somewhere. You'll go to OAN, you'll go to Newsmax, you'll wait for a soundbite, and then you'll repeat it. Exactly, Shishi. Stood by his wife as well. Total fucking hero husband too. No doubt about it. I dare you. Try to find a way to support what Pete Kegseth said, that Mark Kelly deserves to be censured. Guys are fucking pitiful. But nothing to see here, right? Nothing to see here. Now we're saber rattling about Denmark. Katie Miller, Stephen Miller's wife, ex-post over the weekend, puts the American flag over Greenland. The Prime Minister of Denmark on Sunday called on President Trump to stop the threats about taking over Greenland after the U.S. president reiterated his wish to take over the Danish territory. Since returning to the White House a year ago, Mr. Trump has repeatedly claimed that making Greenland part of the U.S. would serve U.S. national security interests, given its strategic location in the Arctic. Greenland is also rich in key critical minerals used in high-tech sectors. Oh, but that's just a coincidence, right? Got it. In an interview in The Atlantic magazine published yesterday, Mr. Trump reiterated his wish to take over Greenland. We do need Greenland. Absolutely. We need it for defense. We do? Is our military that weak that we need Greenland for defense? Really? Okay. Later that night, Mr. Trump again told reporters on Air Force One, we need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and Denmark is not going to be able to do it. So now, we're just threatening allies? Okay. We'll worry about Greenland in about 2 months, Mr. Trump added. Let's talk about Greenland in 20 days. Okay. His comments came a day after U.S. military captured former Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife during an overnight raid in Caracas. This raised concerns in Denmark that the same could happen in Greenland, a Danish territory. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said in a statement on Sunday that it makes, quote, absolutely no sense to talk about the need for the United States to take over Greenland. The U.S. has no right to annex any of the three nations in the Danish kingdom. I would therefore strongly urge the U.S. to stop making threats against an historically close ally and against another country and another people who have very clearly said they are not for sale. In December, Mr. Trump named Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as a special envoy to Greenland, drawing renewed criticism from Denmark and Greenland. And on Sunday, the wife of one of Mr. Trump's most influential aides fanned the criticism when she posted a social media picture of Greenland painted in the colors of the U.S. flag. Nothing to see here, though. Katie Miller, wife of Stephen Miller, put the contentiously altered image of the Danish Autonomous Territory on her X feed after the U.S. military and operations against Venezuela with a caption with one word, soon. In response, Denmark's ambassador to the U.S., Jesper Moller Sorensen, great name, reacted on Sunday with his own post saying, quote, "We expect full respect for the territorial integrity of Denmark," above a link to Katie Miller's image. Quote, "We are close allies and should continue to work together as such," end quote. Sorensen said of Denmark's relationship with the U.S., he added that both countries work together to ensure security in the Arctic and has significantly boosted its Arctic security efforts in 2025, an example of how it takes their job seriously. So what we're doing, right? Is this important, MAGA? Grocery prices, affordability, housing costs, losing jobs, but Venezuela, but Greenland, totally fine. America first. You guys have no issues with any of this, right? You see, like I said to start the show today, I'm not going to debate the legality. I'm not going to debate because it doesn't really matter anyways, because this administration has shown that they don't give a fuck about the law. So what's the point? I'm not going to get into war powers resolutions. I'm not going to get into the constitutionality of it. I'm not going to get into the whole, congressional approval. Those things are incredibly important, but why spend the time? Because MAGA doesn't give a fuck. I want to call it the hypocrisy. The Mark Kelly situation is a perfect example, claiming that you truly support veterans. So you bitch, you pussy ass bitch MAGA, mediocre men at best. Would you walk up to Mark Kelly and call him a traitor? Would you? Would you walk up to him? Would you literally walk up to Mark Kelly, a decorated combat veteran war hero? Would you walk up to him and call him a traitor? No, you wouldn't. And you know you wouldn't. You wouldn't. Would you walk up to any veteran of the six that made that statement and tell any of them that they're traitors, that they've committed sedition, and that the crime for sedition is execution? No, you wouldn't, bootlicker, because you're a pussy ass bitch. You lick your own boots. Yeah, they would exactly. They'd ask for an autograph. They'd want a picture with an American hero. So in your mind, MAGA, he's a traitor, but Nick Shirley is a patriot? I'm serious. That's how far you have fallen. And like I said to Paul earlier, we don't need you traitors to win elections. We just need the entitled 45 million, I should say the 90 million people who didn't show up to vote. Teabag you, bootlicker? Okay. I'll take this opportunity to remind folks that we are doing what's referred to as the Do Something Tour. Pieces are coming together. I've got a couple of leads I'll have to tell our little team about that came in over the weekend about this whole thing. My goal is to travel the country or wherever I can go to talk to the 90 million people who didn't vote and remind them what's at stake. And I've said this before, that I look at non-voters in two distinct categories. Obviously, there's more than that, but I think about the 45 million who said, two wings of the same bird, I don't vote, the whole thing's fucked up. I think that's just lazy, and I think that's excuse making. The other 45 million, I think, are truly people that just feel lost politically. They're hardworking Americans. They just want their lives to be better. They don't feel like anybody's looking out for them. They become disenfranchised. They become apathetic and not willing to be involved. Those are the people that I want to talk to. And if we're talking, if that is 45 million, roughly speaking, if that's 45 million, imagine if 0.1% of those people decided to vote. that changes the entire ballgame. So that's our goal. So in the do something spirit, right? Those people need to be reminded that, by the way, friends who didn't vote, are you aware that a person like Mark Kelly is now considered a traitor? So you may not be a super big fan of the Democrats. I get it. But oftentimes we have to look at elections as harm reduction. Okay? Harm reduction. So if you support veterans and the United States military, do you want someone censuring a truly decorated war hero? Do you want an administration who's referring to people who just reminded active duty military of their oath and why they have to, under the law and under their oath, disobey unlawful orders? Again, I know you don't care about politics, but can you vote to defend them? I think that's a winning argument for people on the left, to be honest. Truly, the party that truly does care about the military, party that truly does care about law enforcement. Because remember, Republicans defunded the police. Donald Trump signed into law defunding the police. Just look at the one big beautiful bill. You can find it right in there. MAGA. So now you guys are fully on board with defunding the police? Well, that's a change. No new wars. You're fine with it now. Defunding the police. You're fine with that now too? Okay. I wish I could change my mind as much as you guys did. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, man. I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right.
Heard. It's funny enough, I'm glad you talked about that because I saw your sticker there. I was like, oh, yes, I remember you talked about this a couple weeks back. So I actually wanted to share a story with y'all. Something that's been bothering me since yesterday. And I'm not going to beat down on creators and how they go about things, but you and I, we've talked in depth about the importance of reaching non-voters and the people who feel left out. Even the ignorant ones, like you said, because there's a level of civil laziness when it comes to people not voting. Let's be real.
Correct.
But I'm on a panel yesterday, and it was to speak to MAGA, but a non-voter comes up. And he came up to discuss how much he was bothered by the situation in Venezuela and what Trump did. And the entire panel was about to engage with him on this. And I stopped and I said, wait a second. I understand your concerns there, but you said that you didn't vote. And I think we need to talk about that first and how that action may have directly led into this. So I asked him why he didn't vote. He ultimately summarized it to, I don't think it matters. I think the powers that be choose their candidates and nothing else matters. Regardless of whoever's in office, I still got to go work this much and I got 4 kids and I got to do all this different stuff. So I was like, okay, well, you mentioned having 4 kids. I said, any of them are under the age of what? He said, yes, one of them. I said, okay, so starting January 1st, 2026, if Kamala Harris won the presidency, for that first child, you would have had a $3,600 child tax credit. And I believe $3,000 for the other ones that he had that was above that age up until the age of 6, and then it goes out up until the age of 18. It's like that would have been starting this year. I said, starting that year, you would have had better options for healthcare, or at least continuing subsidies for your ACA plans, because I think he got insurance through his job, but his kid's mother didn't. Like, she went through the ACA. And it's like, well, her premiums may go up for her, all of those children, so on and so forth. Anyway, I'm breaking it down to him in ways that actually directly apply to his life. And we're talking about all this stuff. And the whole time, again, I'm not trying to knock creators, but the entire time I'm doing this, there's other people trying to butt in. And they're trying to make this a gotcha, a tit for tat, why didn't you do this, blah, blah, blah. Or get back to talking about like Trump and everything he's doing. And I'm like, guys, can we just take a moment to focus on this thing here? Anyway, long story short, I was able to get him to follow some people, creators that I know in Florida, because he resided in Florida. I told him to follow me. He actually did. And I said, you're more than welcome to come into my live. No matter what background, we can talk about this. In fact, I've decided I'm going to put, when I'm doing MAGA lives, I'm going to put a sticker up that says non-voters prioritize, because it's hard to get them in whenever we run the dedicated non-voter lives. So I'm going to put it up for whenever, anytime, any place, non-voters can come up. So with that being said, to spin into what I'm trying to say now, sorry, I'm long-winded. I want to thank you so much for doing what you do on this platform every day, and you don't focus on MAGA. Obviously, they're the party in office, but you talk about this broadly and how everything that we want supersedes party. It's about people. It's about bettering American lives. And I think we need to see more of that. You talked about this Do Something tour. This is what we want. We have too much people talking. We have too much people, I would say, who don't always care about actually getting the right message out. It's more about how saying the right things could benefit themselves. And you do this unapologetically for the betterment of people. You try to help people. And I think that's something we need to see more of. And I'm always going to push forward people like you in the algorithm. I thank you so much for everything that you do. And finally, with all that being said, I see a live goal there. You knew I was going to do this. I see a live goal there. There's 999,000 people in this live currently. If 20 of you sent $5, 10 of you sent $10 each, or one of you with that, unrealized capital or some shit, sent the entire thing, we would have more to keep these lives going. So I just want to stress that, because I'm of the firm belief that as creators like Facts and maybe myself and other people who should be controlling, quote unquote, controlling the media, we should be on the forefront of actual news, unbiased news, real news, because we're seeing our big corporations, even CBS, sell out. I no longer read articles from CBS. Those of you who don't know, they pulled the 60-minute special on CCOT because of pressure from the Trump administration.
Bullshit.
And they just did it again for Epstein.
Correct.
They're caving in.
Correct.
And guess who I saw the very next day still making videos and hosting lives about that topic? Facts. So I just want to kindly ask everyone to take care of people who are giving you accurate information, unbiased information, and keeping you in the know when the biggest corporations that we thought was on our side aren't. That being said,
I appreciate you saying that before I let you go, because I think it was a couple weeks ago now that you and I did a live together. You asked me to kind of co-host with you with the topic of non-voters, and it was, I think neither one of us really knew what we were going to expect going into that, and we didn't really get the traffic that we thought we would. There was a couple of conversations, but you're right, obviously. And this is, again, to your point, I'm not going to judge how somebody else runs their panel, but if you want to engage with people, if you have a choice, why not engage with people who are not participating in democracy? We've got lots of strategies to kind of get more people to participate. If people want to go full blown onto MAGA to try to flip them, I'm not going to do that because I don't think they're flippable at this point. But I know there are millions of Americans that have not voted that just might need a little bit of a push. And Hector's going to push them. I'm going to push them. It's part of why I want to have this conversation in person. Again, using my fucking privilege to assimilate into communities. It's going to be a hell of a lot easier for me than it is for Hector. Let's be honest. Using my fucking privilege to try to flip 45 million people to say, I can do this. I can participate. I can focus on harm reduction. That's the goal. So thank you for saying that, bro. I appreciate it.
6,000%. And even more so, guys, another reason why I'm pushing that goal there is because, as you can see, his GIF thing is turned off. TikTok, starting the 22nd. I believe it's nonsense. January 22nd is when.
Have you noticed it too?
Yes. So I haven't had it happen. But I've seen it happened to Pickles the other day. It happened to a few other creators, and like I was there the whole time. They didn't say anything crazy. Sometimes they started their live with it off. No flag, no warning, no nothing. I believe that the 22nd is when the deal is finished. And Oracle's going to own it. We all know Larry Ellison, who is good buddies with Trump, is, spearheading that. So they're going to make it harder for us to do what we do.
I know.
Just like everything else, we find ways around the bullshit.
I'm prepared. So. We will. I appreciate you, my friend. If you guys don't follow Hector, you know what to do. Please do so. We've become friends, and I'm honored that you would include me in your spaces, bro. So it's like I said, it's an honor. We got a lot of fucking work to do, bro. And I'm glad you're on my team, and vice versa.
That we do, man. I appreciate you.
You too. Have a good day. Talk to you later. Take care. He's great. And just real quick, want to thank Feisty for the $10 super chat on YouTube. Thank you so very, very much. I appreciate you. He's right though, and this is a cautionary tale, right? I am not gonna judge. Maybe a little bit of judgment for people on the left. What is the point behind your life? what do you want to do? Do you want to educate people? Do you just want to debate with MAGA? That's up to you. That's up to you. But we've got an election that's coming up in 10 months, right? We've got millions of Americans that are fighting for their lives, like literally healthcare. I know you would, Hector. Over healthcare, over SNAP benefits, over just human rights. So maybe use your platform to just remind people what it is that we're fighting for. Maybe don't make it so antagonistic. Maybe consider having more smaller panels and not 8 or 9 people, right? And perhaps I'm guilty of that because oftentimes I'll join some of those spaces, especially if there's a topic about healthcare that comes up. You know, I'm pretty well versed in the healthcare situation or why I want to see education reform, all those kinds of things. So just make sure you're using your space for the betterment of everyone. You know, it's hard to sit on the left and say that, you know, we care about making sure that we are promoting the voices, making sure the voices of marginalized communities are being represented and being heard. And we'll always do that. That's always our goal, right? That's always our goal. But we need to be doing more of it. We've got to be doing more of it because people are just being harmed. What is that? Okay. We've got a lot to do. We have a lot to do. I'll just put it that way. Okay, I think I do have to wrap today, though, friends. I mentioned I got a little bit of capitalism I have to take care of because the clock still ticks, as they say. Tomorrow is a big day. Like I mentioned earlier, tomorrow marks the 5th year anniversary of the insurrectionist, riotous traitors who attempted to overthrow our government. And we will cover it because that is, again, something that we cannot forget. Jack Smith's testimony last week, very damning, obviously, but we know that there are millions of people in our country who seem to think that was still a false flag or whatever. But we'll cover that tomorrow. We're going to talk about not only that, we're going to talk about the people who were pardoned and some of the crimes that they have committed since then and the lies that have connected or that still just permeate through our body politic. I mean, our president has still not acknowledged that he lost the 2020 election. There was a panel or a hearing 2 weeks ago where new federal judges were expecting to be promoted to their federal spot on the bench. When asked a simple question, who won the 2020 election? Joe Biden was sworn in as president. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? Joe Biden was sworn in as president. It's shit like that. Okay, so we'll cover that. Who are we going to raid? Who's live right now? Anybody? Let me see here. I'm trying to determine myself. Doing a little. Olive? Is Olive live? Yeah, Jack Smith didn't go far enough. Yeah, I agree. Let's go raid Olive, everybody. Tell her we said hello. I love you all. See you tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time. You guys are the smartest chat on TikTok. Mods, well, you know.
Good morning. How are we all? We are looking for your help. We just need 3 follows for a price drop. Okay. Only you will benefit from this though, guys. I won't benefit. Only you. Okay. You are getting cheaper prices from us if you press follow. Follow button is up here. Do pop your.
Oh, we got it.
3.
Flash sale drop now.
Oh my gosh. Go on, girls. 5 minutes of flash sales, girls. This gorgeous 3-piece set has gone from $70. Listen to it. It's gone down to $38, girls. You have got 5 minutes to get it at that price, though. It is an absolutely stunning set. Out of this world. So elegant. Classy design. The style is absolutely beautiful. You are getting your 3 pieces. Let me take it apart and put it back together so you can see what you're getting. This excites me, this. I love this set. It's so comfortable. Look, guys, you could even wear the t-shirt that you get with it, all on its own. It's like a little waistcoat. It is a turtleneck. It's got a lovely detail in ever so like delicate and simple, but you can see the lines there. The waistband of the top is slightly different. The trousers are a plain trouser, ever so comfortable, girls. They're just so comfortable. The whole set is figure hugging. Look at that. It's one size, so it fits all of us. Are you going to the other, what's that? The other outfit, are you going to the other outfits? We will, but we have got the other outfits in the box here. We've got 69 other products in the basket, so do have a look if you want a flash sale on them. We're just promoting this 3-piece set at the minute. It's now $38 down from $70, so you're getting your lovely turtleneck waistcoat t-shirt, which is stunning. You could even wear this with just a pair of jeans. You're getting your gorgeous pants, girls, bearing in mind they're all on size, and also you're getting a cardigan. You're getting all 3 items for just $38. Listen to that. Normally, a cardigan of this size, girls, a long cardigan, that's going to be about $48 in the shops in the high street just for a cardigan. You're getting your trousers, you're getting your beautiful waistcoat. I'm just a real fan of this waistcoat top thing. Love it. It's got a turtleneck, and then you're getting your cardigan. It's so comfortable. It's ultra stylish. Like, this is just shouting style, girls. It's so nice. It would be perfect for your dinner dates, perfect for like even like special occasions, christenings, weddings. I mean, look at that. That could even have like a nice wedding vibe, couldn't it? Nice and bright, vibrant, ever so elegant and classy. Very, very smart. You can wear it with heels, you can wear it with flats, daytime wear, evening wear, dinner date wear. If you've got important meetings or you're an important person at work, this one